For LA This Week.
LA's earthquake experts say they will need another $23 million to completely install the earthquake early warning system. It could go online as early as the next couple of years. Well, the next time it rains, that water draining from city streets and into the ocean will be a lot cleaner, thanks to a new water treatment facility. Yana Kay reports.
This may look like your average grass field at the park, but looks can be deceiving. That's because buried deep underground here at Penmar Park in Venice is a massive stormwater treatment facility. It's designed to capture and clean stormwater runoff that empties into Santa Monica Bay off Venice Beach.
It is a great way to use water properly, to keep the ocean clean, and to recycle water in a place like this.
3, 2, 1.
Councilmember Bill Rosendahl and other city officials celebrated the completion of the $14 million project with a ribbon-cutting ceremony at the park in Venice. This poster board shows the construction phases of what officials say is the largest water storage tank in Los Angeles, capable of holding 2.75 million gallons of water.
Basically, you're standing on a tank that's 180 foot in diameter, 20 feet deep. So imagine an 18-story building turn on its side.
Funded by the Propo Clean Water Bond, the water treatment tank is located under the baseball field in Penmar Park at Rose Avenue, just north of Penmar Boulevard in Venice.
Being able to capture the little water that we do get, which is what this project does, is tremendously valuable for future generations.
The treated water will also be used for irrigating the Penmar Golf Course and ball fields. Officials say projects like these will not only improve our water quality and increase water supply, but will also help make our beaches and surrounding areas safer and healthier for everyone. I'm Yana Kay for LA This Week.
City engineers now begin the final phase of the project, which is the installation of an irrigation system at Penmar Park. Work is expected to begin later this year. Pacific Standard Time is one of the biggest cultural projects in our region's history, where leading museums join together to present exhibits highlighting the rise of the art scene here in Southern California. And now the Getty Museum brings us the latest piece in the project, a tribute to LA architecture. Here's Anna Marcos.
LA as a modern architectural mecca. That's the theme as the J. Paul Getty Museum unrolls the latest installment in its Pacific Standard Time cultural program. This one is called Overdrive, LA Constructs the Future. Over the next several months, the project will unveil 11 exhibits and dozens of programs, tours, and events that highlight LA's architectural history and gifts to the world, including buildings, the car culture, highways, signs, the movie industry, and more.
From 1940 to 1990, Los Angeles became one of the most populous and influential industrial, economic, and creative capitals of the world. Architectural innovations made LA's complex landscape a vibrant laboratory for avant-garde design, an internationally recognized metropolis with its own design vocabulary, landmarks, and lifestyle.
From the beginning of the 20th century, LA has fostered two great art forms, film and architecture.
Experts here say LA became one of the first cities to move away from historic architecture to designs which express the dreams, needs, whims, and fantasies of the 20th century. Where else will you see a Wigwam Village motel, except on Route 66 in Southern California, or this blimp-like piece of architecture?
This is a cross between a Airstream trailer and a baked potato.
Arts and culture are a vital part of our regional economy, and proof of what can be accomplished.
It's a tribute to the architects who shaped the City of Angels and their creations. The show runs from now until July 21st at the J. Paul Getty Museum. I'm Anna Marcos for LA This Week.
For more information and tickets, go to PacificStandardTimePresents.org. And one of the city's newest pieces of architecture is close to being completed. Officials say the Barker Building project downtown is part of a resurgence in the city's arts district that's also helping to preserve the area's history. Yana Kay has more.
This construction crew is hard at work building the final phase of the state-of-the-art Barker condo complex on Hewitt Street in the Arts District downtown. CityView, the investment firm involved in the project, says the Arts District is in the midst of a transformation.
The beautiful thing about this is you take an area that was once a factory and convert it into living space, and all of a sudden you have a new life for that part of the city. It's like reincarnation of that part of the city. That's what Los Angeles needs.
Mayor Antonio Villaraigosa was on hand for the celebration, saying this type of cutting-edge development is vital for the future growth of downtown Los Angeles.
This is an example, if you close your eyes, what LA is going to look like. All around downtown and all around the transit corridors and the stations that we're building all across the city.
The Barker Block condos are located in a collection of loft buildings that were built in the beginning of the 20th century. Crews are working to preserve the building's historical elements, but not without challenges.
We're dealing with a very old building, so we're getting a lot of surprises in terms of brick walls that may be not as sound as we once thought they were, but everything's moving along very well.
The final phase of construction will convert an original warehouse into 68 state-of-the-art units. The entire building will be more than 72,000 square feet. This is a model unit from the completed first phase, representing some of the first units in the Arts District to be available for purchase since the recession. City officials hope this development will serve as the building block to a more vibrant downtown. I'm Yana Kay for LA This Week.
Once completed, Barker Block will consist of a total of 309 units. The LAPD makes it easy and safe to dispose of unwanted prescription drugs, a local fire station honored for its architectural flair, and an event bringing book lovers together in one place. These stories and more in City Beat. The LAPD held a prescription drug take-back event at several city locations, including this one at Kaiser Permanente in Hollywood, to help individuals properly dispose of unwanted medicines.
Many times poses a danger to a household where you got kids. Pills that are no longer being used need to be disposed of, and this is the proper way to do it.
We've had things that have been hanging around for years and years and really not knowing what to do with them. So it was a great opportunity to just clear everything out.
Public health officials say you should never flush medicine down the toilet or pour it down the drain because that gets into our water supply. The Hollywood Arts Council recently presented its 27th annual Charlie Awards, which honor individuals, businesses, and organizations that have made outstanding contributions to Hollywood's art and culture. Among the honorees was Los Angeles Fire Station 82.
If you've seen that fire station, you know why it's getting an award. It's absolutely gorgeous, and it's the architectural award, and it's for the art of the building itself.
Proceeds benefit the Project SOAR after-school art program that's conducted in 8 Hollywood elementary schools. The 18th annual Los Angeles Times Festival of Books, held on the University of Southern California campus last month, brought out every type of book lover, from those interested in novels to nonfiction to cookbooks and beyond. The Festival of Books began in 1996 with the goal of bringing together the people who create books with the people who love to read them. The event now attracts more than 150,000 book lovers each year. The festival also featured screenings, live music, and other cultural entertainment. Port of Los Angeles Executive Director Geraldine Natz has been honored by the USC Alumni Association with the prestigious Alumni Merit Award. Natz earned a Master of Science degree in Environmental Engineering and a doctorate in Biological Science from USC. The interim Associate Vice President for Alumni Relations says Dr. Natz's leadership and success as the head of the nation's largest container port exemplifies the level of achievement that the Merit Award recognizes. What's billed as the largest Cinco de Mayo celebration in the world kicked off to an early start, and in downtown LA's newest park. Gil Reyes reports on this year's Fiesta Broadway.
More than 200,000 people filled the streets between Broadway and Grand for this annual Cinco de Mayo spectacular.
Hey, just having a great time with my family.
The street fair known as Fiesta Broadway kicked off Cinco de Mayo week in Los Angeles. Cinco de Mayo, of course, celebrating Mexico's victory over much larger French forces more than 150 years ago. And a first for this year's one-day carnival. Less than a year after it opened, Grand Park across from City Hall hosted the main entertainment stage.
Grant Park is a new park that we opened in downtown Los Angeles. It provides a lot of green space, open space for everybody. Lots of great bands. And this year we're celebrating giving a recognition to the Rivera family, a dynasty that has many artists come out of that family. The most popular is Jenny Rivera.
Latin singing sensation Jenny Rivera died in a plane crash in Mexico this past December. Fans came out to hear musical tributes while enjoying springtime in Los Angeles and, of course,
the food.
Fiesta Broadway 2013 may be over, but planners already gearing up for next year's 25th anniversary bash. Organizers say they'd like to take the party back to Grant Park. In downtown L.A., Gil Reyes for L.A. This Week.
In this week's list of things to do, a film festival downtown, a documentary the whole family can enjoy, and jazz at LACMA. Jazz at LACMA features the art of jazz as practiced by leading Southern California artists. Celebrating over 20 years at LACMA, the program continues to be one of the museum's most recognizable offerings. The latest program will be held on Friday, May 10th at 6 p.m. with the Greg Wrighton Trio. Jazz at LACMA is a celebration of LA's finest jazz musicians and has featured such legends as Wayne Shorter, John Clayton, Kenny Burrell, and many others. Over 42,000 visitors attend the program annually from April through November. LACMA is located at 5905 Wilshire Boulevard. For details, go to lacma.org. And for an evening of film, New Filmmakers Los Angeles invites you to join them for the Saturday, May 11th film screening series and after-party event at the AT&T Center downtown. Doors open at 5:30 p.m. and the event goes until 11:30. The AT&T Center is located at 1139 South Hill Street. The event includes a pre-screening reception, the film screening, and an after-party for each program. You will have the opportunity to meet the directors of each film, the actors, and participate in a live audience Q&A. Go to newfilmmakersla.com for ticket and film information. For something the whole family can enjoy, head on over to the Hammer Museum at 10899 Wilshire Boulevard on Sunday, May 12th for the screening of Winged Migration. The film is part of the museum's Family Flicks film series. The film, recommended for ages 7 and above, will be shown from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. This documentary takes the audience to each continent where it follows countless birds in their natural migratory journeys. The film is truly a bird's eye view of the spectacle of nature. All Hammer public programs are free, but you will need to pick up tickets at the box office. For details, go to hammer.ucla.edu. And that's a look at some upcoming things to do. It's a springtime treat for visitors to the Los Angeles Zoo. A handful of cute and cuddly newborn baby animals, some of which are on the endangered list. Anna Marcos takes a look at what the stork flew in.
It's feeding time for these 5 little tykes at the LA Zoo's nursery. The peninsular pronghorn's natural habitat is Baja, but they are extremely endangered animals. This baby boom is part of the zoo's effort to take part in a recovery project to repopulate the pronghorns. Only between 50 and 250 remain in the wild due to ranching practices and loss of habitat, but they have 2 strong survival traits going for them: speed and stamina.
Okay, the only thing faster than them in the world would be a cheetah. And a cheetah can run quickly, in a burst of speed. These guys can run like 40 to 60 miles per hour for up to an hour or more.
The pronghorns aren't the only springtime arrivals. There's a baby black duiker, which is a type of antelope, a baby takin, which looks a little like a prehistoric moose when fully grown, but is really more of a goat. There's also a baby Sifaka monkey and a baby Gerenuk, a type of sleek, dainty gazelle with a definite herd mentality.
You can kind of see that mentality as well. They're sticking together right there. So the dominant male, if he would choose to run, the rest of them would run with him.
The names of these babies are a handful. There's a baby Gerenuk, a black duiker, a Sifaka, a takin, and 5 pronghorns. But the key word to remember here is cute. They're all cute.
How cute are they?
That much. I'm interested how
they're like different than the bigger animals. They're like cuter and they're a little more hard to see. I'm surprised that they can go on their hind legs to get leaves. And I'm surprised that they can run as fast as a cheetah.
These babies have some growing up to do before they reach cheetah speeds, but they're not as fragile as they look. At 4 days old, these little ones can already outrun a grown man. I'm Anna Marcos for LA This Week.
The Los Angeles Zoo has taken part in the Peninsular Pronghorn Recovery Project since the year 2000. And that's going to do it for this edition. Thanks for joining us. I'm Ellen Chang. A reminder that you could catch us online at lacityview.org. You can also follow and like us on Facebook. We'll see you back here next week for more of LA This Week.
G'day, Troy McCubbin from North Hollywood. You're watching LA City View, Channel 35, our city, our channel.
Good morning. Today is Tuesday, May 7th. I want to welcome you to your Los Angeles City Council meeting. This council meets every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday at 10 a.m. At this time, we don't have a quorum, but we can start today's program with Mr. Tom LaBonge and a presentation from the Great 4th District.
Thank you very much.
Mr. LaBonge.
Mr. Wesson, let's give Mr. Wesson, our president, a big hand, bringing us all together this way. In our neighborhoods, in our city, are special people who make the difference. They make the difference. They work directly with our staffs, and they make things happen for their neighborhood. They may be on a neighborhood association. They may be on a neighborhood council, a police athletic league, a Friends of the Library, a youth sports program. But today I honor someone who's very special to Toluca Lake, the great Terry Davis. Give Terry a big hand right now.
Thanks, Tom.
Former president of the Greater Toluca Lake Neighborhood Council, very involved as a board member on the Chamber of Commerce for Toluca Lake, and a member in good standing with the Toluca Lake Homeowners Association. Terry was always making contributions to her community, and really the thing I love the most, Madam City Clerk, is she didn't just talk it, she walked it. If you look at her hands, they're so nice today, but her hands usually are dirty with soil because she's planted more trees than Toluca Lake than the whole Bing Crosby family did some 50 years ago. Terry cared about beautification, and every neighborhood in the city needs someone who is a spark plug, who has the energy to try to get everyone else to get out and clean the neighborhood. You would find them coming out, making a difference on Saturday mornings in the quiet of the day, just making it better for everybody to pass by. So Terry, we wanted to salute you here in City Council because you're an angel in the City of Angels, and you truly have made a difference in your community. Something happened. Can I tell them what happened? Somebody walked up and they, "Hi, we'd like to buy your house, Joe." And that's what they said to Terry and her husband. And they bought the house, and they had to move from Toluca Lake, but I didn't want to have you move from Toluca Lake. We've gotten a big send-off from the city of LA because we want you back at Toluca Lake because you make a difference. With her today is all her husband and her family and the head of the Chamber of Commerce, the head of the Neighborhood Association. And with the Toluca Lake contingent, please stand up as well, and her daughter. Congratulations. What's your husband's name? Andrew. Andrew, thank you for capturing that on camera. So Terry, on behalf of the City of Los Angeles, Mr. Wesson, our president, I hereby salute you for this commendation from the City of Los Angeles, because you truly are an angel in the City of Angels, a special angel in Toluca Lake. The trees that you planted are going to be there long after we're gone. And they're planted with the care and love of you that you absolutely made a difference in so many ways. I love you, Terry. Congratulations, Terry Davis.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Tom, you make me cry. Stop it.
Right.
I mean, is he the most incredible cheerleader for the city of Los Angeles?
I don't want to be a cheerleader. I want to be a quarterback, right, Herb? Okay.
I mean, with someone like that behind you, how can you not fail? And Tom and his staff have been there every step of the way. They're family. I mean, Alice and Stacy and Carolyn and God bless Rory and Renee. Thank you.
Right.
And yes, I want, not only do I thank Tom, but I want to thank the City Council for supporting and encouraging and creating the neighborhood council system, for trusting in the stakeholders in this great city, that they want to work together, they want to work as a team. Tom is a team member, and for all the projects we've done with the neighborhood council and the homeowners, and Sharon Romano is here from the Hollywood Los Angeles beautification team. It takes a team to do little projects, and little projects add up to big projects. And it's those projects that make this city great. And
Terry, why did you do this? Why did you step up? Because this is not just one day, 1 month, 1 week that you did this. You've done it all the time. So everybody out there in Los Angeles knows.
You know, I don't know. I care, and I don't feel I have a choice. I'm living in Malibu now, And Tom, you know the
in a trailer. No, I'm kidding.
You know the helicopters that fly around Lake Hollywood?
Right.
Well, I've been watching the helicopters that now fly along at my eye level along the Pacific, and well, I may just have to get a little involved, but I'm not sure.
Get involved there. That'd be real good. But the thing is, she's got heart. Like damn Yankees, Joe Buscaino, damn Yankees. We got heart. She's got heart. She makes a difference.
Well, I just want to say that I humbly accept this award on behalf of the tens of thousands of volunteers that exist in this great city. So thank you, Tom, and thank you. Thank you very much.
Terry Davis, everybody, thank you very much.
Congratulations, Terry. Congratulations.
Presenting her flowers is my fine deputy, Alice Roth. Good job, Alice. Thank you.
Let's give her another round of applause. We're waiting for one other member to come in so we would have a quorum, and at that time we can begin today's business. So at this point we'll just wait. I'm told that I have members that should be here shortly, and when one of them gets here we will start today's council schedule. Mr. Labange.
Before you get started, I just wanted to let you know I was with the mayor this morning in the Los Angeles Tourism Board, where we announced some great initiatives for that, and we're going to be passing out a briefing for everyone to know how important tourism is to Los Angeles and the millions of people that have come here. We're now up to 41 million people a year who visit Los Angeles, and we have an objective to get to 50 million with the modernization at Los Angeles International Airport, the work at the Port of Los Angeles, the future work at Union Station will be a gateway. So I just wanted to take that extra moment. This is why I'm wearing this pin right here for Los Angeles tourism.
Mr. Labange, you can take another extra moment if you'd like.
Well, in 1781, 44 people walked 9 miles from the Mission San Gabriel, Commissioner Scobin, and they didn't go to Galpin Ford, they went to the water that was there in the Los Angeles River. And it's water which makes this city great. And I always appreciate those who work to bring the water to the city of Los Angeles, because we're going to honor the fire department in a few minutes because they can't do their job without water. So it sees how we're all connected, which is so important as we go forward on that. But on the tourism board, I really want to pass that briefing out so that you know how important the Los Angeles Tourist Board has done. And you know, they changed their name, Mr. President. It used to be LA Inc. and they LA Incorporated. Well, funny thing, in their London office, they got a lot of calls. LA Inc., they were looking for the tattoo place. And their London office said, we got to change the name, and they did. It's Tourism and Convention Board. They're very pleased with the work that they're doing and to help bring people to all parts of the city to enhance that opportunity. So with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to you, Mr. President, unless there's any other questions you have of me. Well, let me tell you about Tom Bradley. Tom Bradley was lucky to hire a guy named Richard Alicorn. You know who told me that? Richard. No, I'm kidding you.
Thank you, Mr. Labange. Again, you successfully... We have a quorum now, thanks to Mr. Labange. All right. Again, welcome to the Los Angeles City Council. We have a quorum. Would you please call the roll?
Alarcon, Buscaino, Engler, Garcetti, Bizarre, Carrasco, Coin, Labange, Parks, Perry, Reyes, Rosendahl, Zion, Weston, 11 members present and a quorum, Mr. President.
Okay, first order of business.
Approval of the minutes.
Krikorian moves, Weezer seconds. Next.
Commendatory resolutions for approval.
Mr. Parks moves, Buscaino seconds.
Mr. President, today time for the flag salute.
If everyone in council could rise, we'll have our flag salute given today by Mr. Zine.
Place your hand over your heart. Ready to begin. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated.
Thank you, Mr. Zine. At this time, Madam Clerk, why don't we quickly go through the agenda? So let's start with the first section, items 2 through 22.
Item 1 is an item notice for public hearing. The Department of Building and Safety reports that items 1E, G, L, and M may be received and filed inasmuch as the liens have been paid.
Okay, without objection.
Also, there's a request to continue items A and 1A and H to May 28th.
Okay, without objection. Any cards?
Cards on item 1F.
So does that leave?
Yes, there leaves items to be voted on.
Okay, then let's prepare to do that at this time. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Okay, next section.
Items 2 through 22 are items for which public hearings have been held. There was a request to continue item 14 to May 14th.
Without objection. Specials members, 2 through 22, Mr. Rosendahl.
15 and 17.
What was that again?
15 and 17.
15 and 17 we will hold for Mr. Rosendahl. Okay, let's prepare to vote on the other items. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Okay, let's move to the next section, 23 through 39.
Items 23 through 39 are items for which public hearings have not been held. 10 votes required for consideration.
Okay, without objection, those items are now before us. Mr. Parks?
I have 36 special, and could I get it out of order?
36 special for Mr. Parks. Cards?
Cards on items 24, 25, 28, 29, 32, 34, and 35.
Okay.
And also, Mr. President, also there's 33, and there is a motion forthcoming for item 33.
Okay. Then no other specials by the members?
Excuse me, Mr. President, and there's cards on item 39.
Okay, cards on item 39. Okay, let's prepare to vote. Let's open the roll. Did somebody call 18 special, or is there a card on 18? Okay, public hearing was already satisfied on that. We're now on items 23 through 39. So let's prepare to vote on those items. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Okay.
Item 21 forthwith, please.
21 forthwith, 30 forthwith. Next.
Items 40 and 41 are closed session items. Do you wish to hold those on the desk?
I'll defer to Mr. Krikorian. I'm informed that we need to hold at least one of them. I don't know about the other.
Which one was it? Do we need? We don't need either.
Why don't we just hold both of them for now? Next, what's next?
On the supplemental agenda, item 42 is an item for which a public hearing has been held. Oh, and there is an amended motion forthcoming if you wish to hold that on the desk.
And that's what we'll do. Mr. Reyes?
Want to call a special for that purpose.
Okay. Next.
Item 43 is an item for which public hearing has not been held. 10 votes are required for consideration.
Okay, we'll hold that. So without objection, that item is now before us, and we'll hold that one as well. So where are we now?
Mr. President, that takes council to presentations or items called special.
Okay. Mr. Parks, is item 36 a reward motion? Do you want to just do that now, and then we'll go back to presentations?
Thank you very much. Glad to. Colleagues, we have a renewal of a reward motion, and we ask for the public's assistance in helping the Criminal Gang Homicide Division of LAPD, Sergeant Burke, at 213-485-4341 in solving this crime. On Wednesday, July 4th, 2012, at 10:28 p.m., 24-year-old Dennis Tillett was standing in front of 4818 2nd Avenue in Los Angeles. He was with a group of people celebrating the 4th of July holiday when two males approached the group and fired multiple gunshots at them. Mr. Tillett and 4 others were struck by gunfire. Mr. Tillett was transported to the local hospital where he ultimately succumbed to his injuries. We'd certainly like to ask anyone that has information on these details to contact Sergeant Burke at 213-485-4341.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Parks. Okay, let's prepare to vote on that item. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Okay, Mr. Krikorian, would you like to begin your presentation at this time, or do you need a few minutes? Okay, then the floor is yours.
And I'd like the fire chief and the members of the fire commission to join me, if I could, for the moment. Then we're going to have other people join us. Members, today in firehouses around the city, members of our fire department are showing up for the beginning of their shift, not knowing exactly what lies ahead of them that day. Just like the other first responders in our city, our police department and others who risk their lives every day for us, when a firefighter begins the shift, they don't know whether that day is going to be just another ordinary day in the firehouse. There aren't that many ordinary days in the fire department, really, or an extraordinary day. Well, I want to tell you a little bit about an extraordinary day that happened recently in my district. On February 13th, 2013, when a very, very significant fire began in an apartment building, and we have a video which I'd like to cue up now, which tells a bit of the story.
What is burning? Se prendió un apartamento en Bellingham 5260.
Okay. Llevan a camino.
Reported destruction fire for engine 102, rescue 102, engine 86, engine 39, that's 14, battalion 10, battalion 12, 5260 Bellingham Avenue, 5260 Bellingham Avenue.
Metro from engine 102 on scene at 5260 North Bellingham. Got a 3-story over parking apartment building with smoke showing.
Battalion 10's on scene.
Battalion 10, roger. This is what we got. We got a third floor fire. We got engine 102 as fire attack. We got engine 86 backup fire attack. We got truck 78 doing ventilation. Aerial to the south side.
Metro fire from Battalion 10, 5260 North Bellingham Avenue. We are working a 3-story apartment building. We do have 1 unit well involved, lapping to the 3rd floor. Give me 2 additional task forces, 2 additional rescues, as well as 2 additional battalion chiefs. What will be known as Bellingham IC.
Members, that morning, that initial call that you heard came in at 10:03, 1 second after 10:03. The first unit was dispatched at 10:03 and 38 seconds. The first unit was on the scene at 10:05 in less than 2 minutes.
By the time the response was finished, over 170 firefighters worked for over 90 minutes to try to bring this blaze under control in that 43-unit apartment building. So what could have been a major disaster, the kind of disaster that would make headlines across our country, instead was a significant inconvenience for a lot of people without any fatalities. And it was a remarkable, remarkable achievement by our fire department, the type of achievement that they are able to successfully do every single day at some point in our city. This was a 41,000 square foot building with no sprinklers, and because of the skill and training of our firefighters, they were able to use ground ladders to safely rescue a mother who you saw and her adult son from a third-level balcony while their colleagues were performing other functions, handling hose lines and ventilating the roof and doing all the other specific functions that our firefighters are trained to do. The well-coordinated efforts, and it was amazing to coordinate this many firefighters on scene, was all under the command of Deputy Fire Chief Mario Rueda. The fire was extinguished in 83 minutes. 75 residents of the building were displaced. 7 were examined for smoke exposure, and only 1 required transport. It was a remarkable result that no one in this fire was seriously injured or killed. But it's also important to tell the story about what happened afterwards, because the fire department maintained a 24-hour fire watch at the building to make sure that there was no continuation of the fire, to make sure that there were no violations of the security of the building and so forth. And then for days after, and even until now, the fire department has worked closely with my office to ensure that the residents of the building had their needs met and were able to find new places to live. It was a tremendous, tremendous team effort, and I just thought that it was important that we recognize this great example of the kind of heroism, the kind of skill, the kind of extraordinary performance that our fire department makes us so proud of every single day. And so in addition to the brass who's here, I especially want to recognize the firefighters of Fire Station 102 who were the first on scene, as well as, and we have with us Engineer Nicholas Pellegrini, firefighter James Walters, firefighter Darren Lloyd, and firefighter Brian Bunker, and firefighter Jeffrey Arnold from 102s. And in addition, we also have with us the firefighters who were responsible for saving the life of that woman and her son, bringing them down from that burning unit. And that would be Engineer Alfredo Martinez, Engineer Ian Yulian, Engineer Jeremy Chitwood, and firefighter Gilbert Quintana, and firefighter Michael Marquez. So please join me in recognizing all of these heroes of our fire department that make us proud every single day. And now I'd like to recognize Chief Cummings. Chief?
Thank you.
Good morning, Chief.
Good morning. Good morning, members of the council, and thank you, Councilman Krikorian, for recognizing some of the outstanding men and women of the Los Angeles Fire Department. Every day, these courageous men and women respond to close to 1,100 calls here in the city of Los Angeles, and they make things better. And even though 85% of what we do is emergency medical service, we need to make sure we maintain the tools, the training, and the talented individuals to handle that all-risk component: structure fires, hazardous materials incidents, physical rescues. And these men and women do it, and they do it over and over again. They do it with a great attitude, and they do it out of a sense of service to the city of Los Angeles. So I commend them, and I commend all the rest of the 3,250 men and women of this department that serve this city so well every day. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief.
I also want to give a little special shout out to Chief Peter Benish, who has been the main go-between with my office throughout this from the moment that fire was put out on the scene until today, in collaborating to make sure that these people in this apartment building were taken care of. So Chief Benish, thank you very much, and to all of the members of our department, your city is very, very grateful for your service. Thank you very much.
We have members. No, no photos. Oh, get back. President, they want to talk first. Some more people want to say.
You do have two speakers on the queue, Councilman Englander and Councilman LaBonge.
Great, thank you. Sorry to bring you right back, but I just had to speak and stand up and say thank you very much for bringing these brave heroes forward to council chambers. And I hear these stories day in and day out. And having been the victim myself of a fire, lost our first house in a fire, in fact, I know while you're going through all that, the people who are responding, that are there to lend not just the expertise and putting their lives on the line, but the compassion and passion that they bring to those folks, the victims on the ground, while those fires are occurring, while the major incidents are occurring, it is something you just can't even train for. The fact that they're running around on the scene to control it, and all the things that you talked about, Mr. Krikorian, while they're doing that, they're also making sure that everybody is comfortable and safe and okay and healthy, and making sure that they have the resources afterwards, that they're putting folks in touch with housing. And it's just incredible that we do have the best fire department in the country, bar none, and they do far more with less than any other department in this entire country. And I just say, God bless you. These are our true heroes. It's the cornerstone of local government. It's an honor and a privilege for me to serve as chair of public safety, just so that I can stand up once in a while and say, you know, I've worked alongside or work with and the best trained force in the entire world, and it's a privilege and it's an honor to have you here in council chambers, and we really thank you, truly thank you, for your dedication and your service to the people of Los Angeles. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman LaBonge.
No, I just wanted to rise. The 102, 76s, the whole team, Chief Benish, working alone. We got to get emergency support for chiefs serving. In the police department, they got so many people who are in the administration. No offense, police department. But the fire department is so lean and mean and doing their job. We got to find a way to help out more in all ways. So I just want to thank the commission. But Mr. Krikorian, I want to thank you, because this is part of your great job that you do, overseeing a district and then recognizing those who should be recognized because of the exceptional work that they do. So congratulations to all who are involved today, and a shout out to Mario Rueda, who's the head of all operations, for what you do there. Thank you very much. 102s, Chief Cummings, thank you. 76s, still miss Stevie Owens.
Councilman Rosendahl.
If I could ask Janetha Hudley Hayes to just come up so we can see her, because since 1996, she and I have been dearest of friends, and she's been head of that commission and has provided incredible leadership, frankly, throughout the city in that position. You're a blessing for all of us. And obviously, firefighters, you're our saviors. Saving my life, frankly. I've been in ambulances, and I know a lot more about it than I wanted to know. But 82% of those who are involved with firefighters is for their own health. The rest is the fires. Every time the fire season starts, I get really nervous because of my areas that have that issue. And I just want to say, every time a firefighter steps out into a situation, their life is at risk. So God bless every firefighter, not only in our city, but throughout the nation and throughout the world. But Janetha Hudley Hayes, you're going to get these eggs. You've deserved them and earned them. My chickens are back into the spring mode, and we're getting these wonderful eggs that I used to give you before, but you got a beautiful half dozen, and thank you for your leadership and everybody in the fire department. Thank you, please.
Thank you. Councilman Resign.
I too want to offer my congratulations to our firefighters and it's unusual to have all the commissioners here at the same time showing their admiration for what you folks do on a daily basis. And if Tom LaBonge wasn't a city councilman, and if he had passed the fire test, he probably would have been a firefighter. Thank you very much, Tom LaBonge.
I didn't pass, but he passed the LAPD. LAPD will take anybody.
There you go. That's been our standing joke for 12 years. But in seriousness, congratulations, and to have the commission here, commissioners showing their support and respect for you, it means a lot. So each and every one, you do this every single day. The general public's not aware of it, and I thank my colleague Paul Krikorian for bringing them forward. Interesting, I worked an LAPD assignment over the weekend, and there was a fire off of Beverly Glen up in the hills, a Summit, I think it was Summit. And see Matt? Anyway, it was a weird, tiny, little road, and I remember going up there, seeing all the rigs coming in, and they kept on coming in from all parts, through Mulholland, through Beverly Glen, down Ventura Boulevard, and this place was fully engulfed. And it was so difficult for them to get the equipment up to that particular location, and people below were all concerned about their particular residents and their properties, and the fire department did a great job, but it came out as a 9/11 unknown trouble. And it turned out to be a massive fire. I think they lost the structure because by the time the fire department was notified, it was obviously well engulfed. But the heroic efforts of the firefighters in challenging that, every day they do that. So I just want to acknowledge, and this recognition is obviously appropriate. So I think we have all the commissioners in mind, that all 5 commissioners are here. All 5. Thank you very much for being here to show your respect and support, and the other firefighters that are here, firefighter, paramedics, and command staff that are here showing their support for the heroic efforts that you do. So thank you, Paul, for bringing them forward, and congratulations to all the recipients. Thank you.
Thank you. That does conclude the speaker queue. Ms. Janitha Hayes, Commissioner.
More than anything else, I would really like to thank Councilman Krikorian for this honor. This fire department is the best fire department, bar none, in the nation. With a diverse population, with diverse topography, they respond dynamically to all kinds of emergencies. And yet, most of the time, what happens is that you see the very small negative things that impact the fire department that wind up on the front page of the newspapers, without understanding that these sworn officers respond to more calls, respond to more emergencies, they are more helpful and more successful. And I really would like to thank you for bringing that to light, because that doesn't often happen. They're on their job 365 days a year, 24 hours a day, making sure that the residents of the city of Los Angeles and the entire Los Angeles basin has every confidence that they're going to be safe, their lives are going to be safe, their property is going to be safe, while they're in the business of transitioning into the largest emergency medical services response department in the city. And so I would really like to thank you. We are all here, every last one of us, Commissioner Tolentino, Commissioner Scobin, Commissioner Fazio, and Commissioner Friedman, all need to have their names also spoken in the council chambers for the work that they do tirelessly every day to make sure that we are supporting, that we're listening, and we're hearing about the needs of the fire department. And as a public service announcement, I would like for the City Council to remember all the work that they do and the fact that it takes funding in order for them to do what they do. It takes proper funding, appropriate funding, in order for this fire department to be the very best that it can be. Thank you.
Thank you. Well spoken. Councilman Krikorian? Okay, thank you. Thank you for that great presentation.
Okay, let's give it up for the fire department one more time. Let's give them another round of applause. They deserve it. Okay, at this time, I think that we should go directly to item 43, which also deals with the fire department. So, Mr. Alarcon, We're taking up item 43.
That's great.
So the floor is yours. You want to start it off?
Council members, item 43 we discussed with more than we should have on Friday, frankly. But this is an item that is critically important to the public safety of the community. And what I am proposing is that we ask the chief to postpone his implementation of the plan. Now, obviously, he's implemented it as of Sunday. And I think the most important thing here is a commitment from the council to support this chief and the firefighters that we have working for us day in and day out and being honored appropriately for their heroic acts. But we shouldn't just take heroic acts to honor. We have to recognize that they do this every day. I want to mention that Mr. Parks mentioned that we should let the chief manage his department. And I say absolutely. That's exactly what I am trying to do here. And I believe the chief would support the addition of these personnel without pulling the people off the fire trucks. In fact, I would ask him to step forward and answer that question. The question is, what is our commitment? Not what the chief's commitment is, not what the firefighter's commitment is, but what is our commitment? And I believe that we have to continue to upgrade the services of the fire department. So, yes, I would like to postpone, if not figure out another way to do this. But more importantly, I would like to see us put the resources behind increasing the ambulance services without taking from the fire services. I think that would have a devastating effect. And we cannot rob Peter to pay Paul, which is exactly what we are doing here. The fact is that we are responding to a political desire to reduce the response times, at the same time reducing our fire service, which in a firestorm can have devastating effects. And so each of us has had our own experiences with the fire department. The question is, what is our commitment in terms of financially? Now, quite frankly, and I know there are those that disagree with this idea, but we're sitting on over $200 million in our reserve fund. And this item would cost about $9 million a year. And in the short run, just to finish this year, with overtime, it might cost about $1 million to implement this plan just by allocating overtime. I think that's well worth the cost, but I'm willing to consider other ways to find the money. But finally, let me say this. I don't think this plan is ready, Chief. I understand that several of the ambulances are not in the top condition that they need to be in. They're using wooden stretchers that have been declared unsafe by the health department. We have firefighters that were waiting. They were assigned to these trucks, but they were waiting because they were in the mechanic shop. That's some of the rumors. I'd like for you to clear some of that up. I heard that Tujunga Station, they didn't go on the ambulances because the truck was in the station, was being serviced. If you could answer, first of all, the first question was,
Mr. Alarcon, what I'd like, and it's my mistake here, I'd like to take up the cards first, if that's okay with you, and then you can ask the chief your question. So we have some cards from the public. Dr. Tom Williams, Dana Martinez, Beth Garfield, please come forward.
Nice to you.
I get to see you twice in 2 days, Dr. Williams.
Dr. Tom Williams, LA 32 Neighborhood Council. Oh, it's the fire season. What is a fire season? Every day is a fire season. However, in Los Angeles, we also have the brush fire season, which is now. Are resources being reallocated for that? We reallocate things based upon fire risks, but how about who pays for it? Everybody pays for it. So those resources that are being assigned to near the brush areas, near the canyons, near Mulholland Hills, and in La Cañada, I don't know. Where does the money come from? Eventually, all were at risk. It's a question as to who is at risk more than other people. Life is important. Fire is important. We need to have enough money, but who's going to give it? Who's going to be allocated those things? Well, Mount Washington. Mount Washington has a fire risk much higher than the rest of Highland Park. But Highland Park pays the same as Mount Washington. But who gets better service? We don't know. One of the things is transparency. Put these fire resources online so that the people can see what we're dealing with, have the risks assigned, and make sure that they're proportional to who pays for what. Maybe there should be a consideration as to cost recovery of fire responses. Thank you.
Oops. Hello, my name is Beth Garfield. I would like to give my time to my law partner, Dana Martinez.
No,
Good morning.
wait, Beth.
I'm sorry?
She's not going to get additional time, so you may want to take your time as well. So, Ms. Martinez, you go ahead.
Thank you. We'll tag team. My name is Dana Martinez, counsel for UFLAC, and I'm here to talk about the Chief's staffing plan. What I'd like to address specifically is the duty to bargain. In addition to the very serious safety issues that compel halting and postponing this plan, there are also bargaining issues. On April 17th, UFLAC demanded that the chief bargain with the union over the decision involved in these staffing changes. The chief has thus far refused to bargain with the union. This is in clear violation of the Myers-Milius-Brown Act and the city's ERO. Indeed, both of those require that there be bargaining over mandatory subjects of bargaining. We are dealing with mandatory subjects of bargaining here. One of them is safety. The second is workload. When you have a truck, and under the chief's plan, the chief wants to remove one of the critical staffers on that truck, that void needs to be filled. There needs to be work that needs to be done. That work is workload that needs to be shared by the remaining firefighters. That, the law has clearly recognized, is a mandatory subject of bargaining. Secondly, safety. As we heard on Friday in front of the Personnel and Animal Welfare Committee, the chief's own staff recognized and admitted that this staffing structure with only 4 staffing a truck creates safety issues. There's a higher risk and it's less safe. Again, the law has clearly recognized that when there's an issue of safety, there is indeed a mandatory subject of bargaining.
Okay, Frank, followed by Beth. Or Beth, you're there now. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you all doing?
We're doing okay.
Thanks for the opportunity to address you. As Dana said, we represent UFLAC and have been brought in on this issue and honestly have been very surprised that the chief is rushing into these changes. As Dana said, there is an obligation to bargain with the union, and it's an obligation to bargain over the decision to make these changes. While generally a department head has a right to determine staffing, that is not true in this situation because this is equipment staffing. There are some very clear firefighter cases which state that there's an obligation to negotiate over the decision to change equipment staffing. What that means, of course, and we can just look at the example that we have here now, is truck staffing. There are 5 individuals who are staff on the truck. What the chief is proposing to do is to take one of those individuals, the inside member from that truck. That is equipment staffing, and that has been recognized under the law as a mandatory subject of bargaining. So we are in wholehearted support of the request of the City Council, the motion of the City Council, that this issue be put off. There's absolutely no reason whatsoever that the Chief is rushing into these changes, especially, and as was recognized earlier, at the beginning of fire season. The last thing that the City of Los Angeles wants to do is to deploy trucks that are understaffed, where individuals have a great likelihood, a great risk of accidents, even of death. In fact, Frank, I think, is going to talk about an incident which just happened a couple days ago where the inside person pulled out an unconscious
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay, Frank Lima, followed by Chief Andy Fox, followed by Captain John Capon.
Thank you, Council President, Honorable Council. My name is Frank Lima. I'm the President of United Firefighters of Los Angeles City. First of all, we keep hearing this word plan. Plan is when you sit down with other people, you write things out, and the fire chief doesn't have a plan. We don't call it a plan. We call it the fire chief's dangerous experiment. We're not here with the contract on our hands, with pension obligations, anything like that. We are here banging the safety drum. You see the proclamations from our firefighters earlier today. You saw the pictures, you saw the heavy ladders that take 3 firefighters to raise them per department policy. And we hear a lot of the electeds, a lot of the commissioners, hey, we value these firefighters. We value you. Well, when you look at somebody's values, you look at their budget. And when we look at our budget, you know, what we're told by looking at the budget is we're not valued. Firefighters are getting hurt on the line every week. Trips to the burn center are becoming a regular thing. Angelinos have been dying. We just had one die in Krikorian's district the other day. The pump engineer does not fill the spot of a firefighter on a different apparatus as the fire chief makes to believe. And I sit on that national committee. We're running below national standards for the second largest city in America. It's very frustrating that we're even talking about this safety issue. We support ambulances, but not at the expense of taking an inside firefighter off of our truck companies. Firefighters, it's a dangerous job, but we need you to give us the best odds at survival. And the fingerprints of when a firefighter gets hurt or dies is not going to be on UFLAC.
Thanks, Mr. Lima. Okay, Chief Fox and Captain.
Thank you, Mr. President. Andy Fox, President of the Chief Officers Association. Let me say at the outset that I think all of us recognize and we support the department's desire to add additional rescue ambulances to our fleet. A number of council members have commented that this predicament, in fact, was caused by a deployment plan that assured response times would not be effective, and now we see that they are. I want to bring to the council's attention that we just honored our firefighters for doing a great job at an incident. On Saturday night, I was the incident commander of a fire that did not have such a great outcome. It was a fire in a hillside, I believe in Mr. Koretz's district, where the end result is we sent 2 firefighters to the emergency room with burns to their fingers. And while I want to be clear, this fire had absolutely nothing to do with the department's current deployment plan on rescue ambulances. It's a reminder to all of us just how dangerous the job is of being a firefighter. And clearly, removing firefighters off fire companies is not the right course of action to take because we have a shortage of rescue ambulances. We're asking the council to provide the dollars for the balance of the fiscal year to implement the 11 ambulances the chief intends and has in fact implemented until we can now look at a better alternative, and that certainly is within the council's discretion to find those dollars, fund these ambulances, and then let's look at alternative plans. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Captain? Followed by Mr. Walsh, John Walsh. Yes, Captain.
Yes, good morning. Thank you very much. My name is John Capon. I'm a Captain 2 of the Los Angeles Fire Department, and currently I'm at Fire Station 85, which is a urban search and rescue company. It's imperative that I keep all my members. One member taken away will be one death. I've been a paramedic now over 33 years. We need ambulances in the city, but we need them strategically put in the city in the right areas. What you're doing is you put in 11 ambulances, and for Mr. Parks, it wasn't 22 people, it was 65 people. And so what you've done is you put 11 ambulances out there with no plan. And these guys are sitting in the hospitals, and they're not augmenting anything. They're not augmenting patient care. They're just 11 ambulances running around. Hopefully they're getting filled. By the way, the county has provided a list of all the equipment that should be on the ambulances. They're not on there. I've got numerous calls. They're lacking equipment, and they're lacking guidance, and no one wants to sign off on it. Also, we have a reserve. We have 1, maybe 2 ambulances ready to go if one breaks down. Think about it. I'm not here for myself. I'm here for the citizens and for everybody in this room, because today you might get in an accident and you're going to need me. And if that 5th person is not there and I have to cut into your home, you're going to burn and you're going to wait. And I don't know how to explain it to you or your family. So please consider this. Consider the money. $1.3 million will get us through to July. It's not a lot. It'll help the fire chief, it'll help the firefighters, and most of all, it'll help the citizens. And that's why we're here today. Thank you.
Mr. Walsh.
John Walsh, blogging at HollywoodHighlands.org. Let me quote the firefighter. You're going to burn, and you're going to wait. You're going to burn. We only have 1 extra ambulance for a city of 4 million, the 2nd largest city in America, and we have the worst roads. And where is the mayoral candidate, Garcetti? He's out campaigning. He's going to burn. We're all going to burn. This is the best fire department in the world, and you treat them like trash. This is not a racist organization the way the LAPD is. Look, it's mixed. And you're going to burn. And I want everybody to realize we're going to burn, and you don't give a damn, and Garcetti doesn't give a damn. We're all going to burn. Because you can't find the money for the fire department, HollywoodHighlands.org. You're garbage.
Mr. Krikorian.
Thank you, Mr. President. You know, by complete coincidence, last night I was watching Channel 35, and I happened upon a fire department training video that told the stories of 3 firefighters who came within a hair's breadth of death. A firefighter who had partially fallen through a roof, some other firefighters who were trapped behind iron bars in a fully engulfed building. Horrific stories about the risk that firefighters face. And they were telling that story in the training video so that, of course, every member of the department would remember from the time of training to the time that they retire that every day is a risk of their life. And every day, each of the firefighters in our department may face a situation where a fire could take their life. And it just really reinforced to me what we've been hearing as we've had this discussion about the need for firefighter safety. And then at the same time, I appreciate and understand the motivation of the department in trying to enhance our ambulance service, which we all know has been cut too much. We don't have adequate ambulance resources in this city to satisfy any of us right now. And that's been a product of many years now of insufficiently funding the fire department, in my view. So I think that the only way we can address both of these situations is through the budget, number one. We need to provide the fire department with more resources. And at the same time, we need to make sure that those resources, if they are provided through today, and I hope that they will be, and I'd like to suggest that we fund that $1.56 million, I think it is, in order to, I'm sorry? Oh, thank you. To fund keeping the truck deployment the way it is while still providing for the ambulance service. I would like us to take that funding from our budget stabilization fund, which right now has over $60 million of it, which is intended for use in future budget years. And it's intended for use in balancing our ongoing budget struggles that we're going to have for several years to come. But I think that this is a matter of such urgency that I would like to propose that we take, we'll let staff determine the exact amount, but I think it's $1.56 million that would be necessary in order to maintain the current staffing level on the truck companies while at the same time providing this ambulance service that the chief has proposed. But I'm only prepared to do that if we have a high level of confidence that if that's done, that if that funding is provided, that is in fact what will happen. Because the chief has contended, and I respect his right to command the department that's under his purview and to allocate resources within the limits of his authority. But I want to make sure that, given the fact that the department is still facing a $3 to $4 million deficit for this fiscal year, that this funding, if we provide it today, doesn't even address the current budget deficit. So I want to make sure that if we advance this forward today, which I propose that we do, and I think I've heard from several of our colleagues that we're very interested in doing, that funding will ensure the reallocation of resources so that we have status quo on the truck companies and we're still able to provide that additional ambulance service.
Thank you, Mr. Krikorian. Mr. Wesson.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Krikorian, and I wholeheartedly support your motion, and I think that Mr. Alarcon has seconded that motion. I just want to kind of have us realize, though, that we gave the chief X amount of money. And his job was to build the best fire department that he could build for that amount. And I'm sure each and every one of us would agree that we have underfunded the fire department. Then we start getting extended response times, and we start to complain that we want you guys to get there quicker. So basically what the chief is trying to do is address the concerns that we presented to him. And I get that. Not one of us seated around this horseshoe is a firefighter or trained to manage firefighters. So I don't know if this is the right thing to do, and I don't know if it's the wrong thing to do. So I can't speak to the merits of the recommendation. But what I do know is that I personally think it's a problem if we do not allow a manager to manage. I think that is a real slippery slope and one that we don't want to go down. Now, regardless if you agree with the chief or not, I think that the best compromise was recommended by Paul Krikorian, and I will urge all of you to consider focusing in on that. Now, I'll be honest, and I'm sure the chief would tell you the same thing. He and I had 2 conversations. And I indicated to him that I was of the mind, with a new mayor going to be selected within a few weeks, that he should wait, see who that mayor is, have a discussion with them, then come to us and explain it to us. Because what the city family needs to know today, that this council will be an equal partner with the mayor. So you need to talk to the mayor and you need to talk to us. So with that said, I think we can get beyond Mr. Krikorian, then that's the way to go. What I won't be a part of, and what I hope you see, is in the event that we don't get behind what Paul wants to do, this vote, this meaningless vote, because of the power that he has, this meaningless vote becomes a referendum on the chief, and I won't be part of that. And I don't think each and every one of you should be a part of that. So let's move in the direction that deals with the problem temporarily. Chief, we've got a new mayor that's going to be sworn in on July 1st that's going to have a lot of issues to deal with. What I'm asking you to do is to give them breathing room so that they can frickin' get here and then figure out how we proceed. So if this council decides to augment that budget, would you make a commitment to us that you would spend the money to do that and that alone?
Yes, sir. I commit to restaff those 22 positions per day. The only one caveat to that is that because our staffing levels are low now, because we haven't hired since 2008, 2009, and that those positions will now be hired on an overtime voluntary basis, there will be days when we will not be able to hire for those positions. So we will not be able to staff them every day. But we'll make every effort to staff them through the voluntary overtime process.
And I would have to defer. I think we need to flesh that out a little bit, but it sounds like we're moving in the right direction. In fact, Richard is comfortable with that. And then to the other firefighters, like Frank, what I would recommend is that you try to queue your people up so that we have the bodies to fill these positions and do not go vacant. Because all we want to do, members, all we want to do is make it the safest fire department that we can, and we want to give breathing room to whoever the next mayor is. What I again don't think we should do is vote on a motion that suggests that we tell the chief not to do something because we don't have the power to do that. And so we've got a new mayor. He's going to have to meet with them.
He or she. He or she will have to decide, thank you, Mr. President, what they want to do with the fire department. But members, I think that that's the best common sense compromise that we could do, and I ask you all to support that. And with that said, LaBonge, you can get out of my chair. Oh, God. All right. Thank you. But it was John Ferraro. So anyway, hey, listen, I got to call on Paul Koretz right now. Thank you, Mr. Wesson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I'm not looking to make this a referendum on the fire chief. In fact, I think, I've been as supportive as could be up to this point of what you've been doing and doing an excellent job. But I had to question what's going on now, and not because I'm knowledgeable enough to know which side is right, which thing is safer overall for our staff and which is safer for our residents. Will more people be saved by leaning towards ambulances? Will more people be saved by staffing up in the fire department? My only real objection is, yes, you have the management right, but why would you do it this way? It's such a big decision. I think it really made sense to take the time to vet it. I still don't understand the rush, and why we wouldn't at least wait until the Fire Commission got its report, gave its feedback, I mean, this is a decision that will decide life or death issues. And it may be some people will die because of one decision, or some people will die because of the other decision. We're trying to figure out what makes the most sense. Now, I would ask you that question first. Why the rush? Why couldn't we vet this? Even though you don't have to, why wouldn't that be the step that you would take?
Mr. Koretz, if we have the alternative on the table,
I'll speak to that.
I know, but maybe we should focus on that, because when you start that, you will make it a referendum.
I do want to ask that question just because this could happen again, and I'd like to see a different approach on something this major when it happens in the future. It easily could happen again.
Sir,
so I kind of want to know your thinking process.
Sir, when you call this a major shift of staffing and personnel for the fire department, I think you're misconstruing what it was. We're moving a little less than 3% of our daily on-duty staffing. So out of 953 firefighters on duty every day, we're moving 22 of them. In fact, we're moving 11 because the other 11 are staying their assignment that they were in. So we're redistributing 22 out of 953 daily personnel. I don't think that's a major shift of fire department resources, sir.
Well, I would beg to differ with you. The one thing I will say is I think this proposal clearly solves the problem because whether it should be more staffing on the ambulances or not cutting the staffing on the fire equipment, obviously doing both only makes us safer. The big question is, long-term, can we afford it? But that would be the ideal. And certainly it buys us the extra time to vet the issue a little more until July 1st. And then you have a new council and a new mayor and a lot of other folks in the discussion, and we'll see where it goes. But I think this is the right step. Honestly, I still think it's a big policy change, and I would have liked to see it vetted appropriately. We had something similar in animal services to this, and the GM ultimately did recognize that it was a big enough policy change and enough people were concerned that more vetting was necessary.
Mr. Rosendahl.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay.
Yeah. First of all, I've got to thank you, Herbie. You're a sharp guy, and you work on ways in which we can work this out, and I appreciate it very much. A few days ago, Frank Lima called me. We had 3 firefighters in the burn. They shouldn't have been in there to begin with. We are not staffed properly, Chief, and I don't want you to be the fall guy. I want the mayor to explain to us why he has this plan in place. It makes no sense. Of course I support the $1.3 million right now, but if we have to go to the reserve fund, this is what a reserve fund is for, if it has to happen. But we're at the beginning of a fire season, and I want the mayor's rep to explain why they put this pressure on you. There's no reason for this. Remember when I went to the maintenance facility and saw the trucks there that weren't being repaired? They got to be repaired. That's part of the reality. Every time there's a fire, or every time there's a heart attack, or every time there's another serious health issue, we must respond. Frankly, I think this particular plan, which I'm so angry about, is not ready for prime time. But I think we resolved that in a very amicable way, Mr. President. But if the $1.3 million will give us 22 times 3, which is 66 people on those different equipment, that's a step, but not the answer. We got to have a commitment. It's not your fault. I just want to make it clear. We got to be able to staff it to the degree that we don't have anybody dying. I don't care if it's from a fire or if it's from a heart attack or cancer like me. So it's very personal, but it's also for everybody very personal. Life and death is what we're talking about here. Safety is what we're talking about here. So is the mayor's rep in the room? I heard they were with the mayor. Are they here?
I didn't hear you, Mr. Rosendahl. I'm sorry.
I would like the mayor's rep to explain why they're putting...
Mr. Rosendahl, just for the record, this is my plan. This is not the mayor's plan. This is my plan that I put forward, working with my command staff.
As long as I know that, then fine.
I spoke to the mayor today.
You did?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, then, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Mr. Zine.
Thank you. What troubles me is animal services as an issue where they want to cut the night watch folks. Public screams, we find money to reinstate those folks. Situation with the fire department, all of a sudden we find the money. Our controller issued a report March 1st that we had $90 million additional dollars in addition to the dollars that come in from property tax, property document transfer tax, $90 million additional dollars. We're talking about $1.3 million. We don't need to manage the city by crisis. One crisis after another. Animal services, fire department. We need to have this stabilized for the confidence of the people of Los Angeles to understand that we have a professional fire department, professional public safety, and all those services delivered. And the concern I have, and I support our council president in this process between now and the budget time when that's finished, and July 1st, a new budget, is the equipment that you're utilizing, salvaged equipment or reserve equipment, depletes the resources when an ambulance does go down. I understand some of the ambulances weren't working and those firefighters were waiting to try and get something done. I know the maintenance yard doesn't have enough personnel to maintain the equipment. So while we may shore up this and we get those firefighters to work overtime to staff that equipment, you are down over 318 bodies. That's a huge hit. The fact of the matter is we need to manage this in a manner without a crisis that comes around. And I know when the fire command comes forward and UFLAC comes forward, the rank and file, together holding hands saying this is a problem for us, it's a problem for public safety. And my concern is that that all be rectified. Now, the meet and confer and the process that has to take place needs to be worked out with the commission, with the council. But I think that when our council president was asked on Friday to consult with you, to say, can you please hold off until we can get this resolved on Tuesday since you were unavailable on Friday, to me that is showing disrespect for this body that's trying to provide service to the people of Los Angeles. And I was the one that stood up and said, we need to make sure that we don't implement something and then go back and forth like a yo-yo. So the concern I have is that we stabilize it and we find the resources and do it before we get to a crisis point, because for the UFLAC members, for the public, we don't need to jeopardize their concern about safety. We know there were fires blazing last week. Today we have nice cool weather, but it changes and we need to be staffed for that. And we've got a lot of cameras here. Why are the cameras here? Because this is a topic that affects the people of Los Angeles. So I just want to say, as humbly as I can, to try and work with the other elements that you have to work. Yes, you're the general manager. Yes, you're the fire chief. But there's other elements regarding the process that have to be consulted so it's a smooth process and not this, oh my God, now we're going to have a crisis and now we're going to have to find money to make it happen. It needs to be done in a more, a calmer fashion so we don't upset everyone, including the firefighters who are getting reassigned and the members of the public who say, oh my God, we're not going to have paramedics. So I know that you have a shortage of ambulances. I know that we need to rectify that. I don't have the answer, but somehow when the police department's short of the dispatchers and you're short of firefighters and you have to keep on squeezing, hopefully we can do this in a manner that's a little calmer without having this entire crisis management take place, because I look at this as crisis management. We're too sophisticated of a city to have to resort to crisis management. So I support what the council president wants to do. This gets us some time. But there's other elements that we have to work together with the members of your department, Chief, to make sure it's done in a proper, calm, reasonable fashion.
Thank you, sir. This was done in a very calm and reasonable fashion. I requested money from this body for additional resources. When that money wasn't forthcoming, I looked at the need for the communities that we serve, that 85% emergency medical service call, and within my budget, I deployed the resources necessary in order to handle the public safety concerns, in order to save lives. And we deployed in that manner. And that's the decision. Saving lives is the decisions that I have to make every day. Public safety, firefighter safety, and service delivery are the things that I base every decision of this department on every day.
Chief, yet your chief officers testified, as well as the rank and file. They both testified that they weren't supporting this plan.
My chief officers have not testified that, sir.
The president of the chief officers testified.
Oh, excuse me. The chief officers labor union has said that. Correct. Yes.
Okay. That's my concern.
Okay.
Mr. Englander.
Let's stand here and point fingers. That's what we should do. We should blame somebody for this. or we should look at the historic perspective of how we got here and what are we doing in the future. We could sit here and say this body didn't fund the department to what was necessary, so the chief had to make the decisions as the chief that he does. Or we can look at the truth and say what really happened, because there's a little bit of both going on, quite frankly. I want to remind everybody of a little bit of what happened. And if you go back to the years 10-11, we had rolling brownouts and closures, and nobody wanted those. We had firefighters marching in here saying that lives would be lost, that public safety is in jeopardy, and the safety of the fire department is in jeopardy. We looked at numbers and the statistics, and we realized later on, if we all remember that the numbers weren't accurate, that we had problems, that we had issues with how we were recording the data, that we were analyzing and trying to fix. Well, how do we fund a department to response times and safety if we don't even know what those response times truly are? So under this chief's leadership and under the commission, quite frankly, and it was Alan Scobin working with a group of people and Steve Fazio and the president of the commission, Janethia Hayes, who's just one of the most incredible women that's ever walked the face of this earth, got together under their leadership on their own with volunteers to fix the data problems. They did that, working with Chief Butler and many others. Let's not forget the history of what happened here. We cut their budget because we were told by the former chief they can absorb a $7 million hit based on the data. It was false data. It was wrong. We don't have to revisit that. Those issues have been fixed, they're being fixed, and it's being done transparently. The information's been shared with the LA Times, it's all been published, it's all on their website, and FireStat LA is moving forward to fix those issues. This year, not coming up in the next fiscal year, in 12-13, we responded saying that's not going to work. The chief came out with an MCP plan, the modified coverage plan. Not the best idea, not the worst idea, but again, given what we have and tying people's hands behind their back and saying, work within the deployment with what we're giving you financially, that's what was being done. Came to us again and said it's still not enough. So we restored 9 EMS captains at $1.55 million, or $1.5 million, an engine company, that's 12 positions, at nearly another $2 million, 6 variable staff ambulances, another $2.3 million. We did that this year, gave it back to them. On top of that, going forward this next fiscal year, we're sitting here arguing over the next couple months. I think we've identified a solution, and I don't support using the reserve fund at all for that. That's a grave mistake. But we have funds that Mr. Krikorian suggested, and that's exactly what we should be using those funds for, and I support that. And we will move forward because I think that's the political will today is what I'm hearing. But let's talk about next year's budget going forward. We've now pledged, with the mayor's proposal and what we've heard in Budget and Finance Committee, and the chief came the other day to that as well, is $50 million in restoration of the fire department, $35 million for staff, for starting the drill tower again, and another $20+ million in new equipment and ambulance and heavy equipment. So let's really talk about why we did it. Well, we did it because it was based on false numbers, and we did it because we were in a recession. We did it because we were cutting every single department in the city of LA. And as we're recovering from this recession and this economy, we're restoring it to the best of our ability, and it's the department we've been giving as much back to as quickly as we can. So I think we've just got to put things into perspective. I think the history is really important here and it doesn't get lost. I think we should thank UFLAC and the Chief Officers Association and the chief and our volunteers that work tirelessly on the commission, because quite frankly, up until this day, they've been working very well together to ensure that the message is sent that we've got to restore the fire department, and this body is doing everything we can with the dollars that come in, as they come in, to do that. And so I wanted to share that history lesson and perspective and thank Mr. Krikorian as well as the chief and everybody else who's been working towards this, and look forward to moving this item along. Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Englander. If you have a moment. Mr. Reyes.
Thank you, Council President. Chief, with the proposal made by Councilman Krikorian, we'll have enough resources to carry us through the fiscal year.
Yes, sir.
So meaning July 1st, it'll be another budget review, another budget reality with the shortcomings that have already been mentioned. Would that be accurate?
Yes, sir.
When I hear this discourse, especially the assertion that there is no sense of value or support for our firefighters, I just want to say that, from my point of view, that's far from the truth. When I look at Station 1, which is in Lincoln Heights, and I see who they serve and how they serve, when I look at Station 44, when they have to reach out into the hills as well as the flatlands in the northeast, look at Station 11 and 13 around MacArthur Park, Westlake, you got up to 60 to 70,000 people per square mile. You know our firefighters are being tested every day. You know the resources are being stretched. And I, for one, am very grateful. Since 1991, been working with the firefighters to improve their environment, their stations, and support them every which way we can. So it does tear at me to hear that language is being used when we, in fact, are trying to find what is best. And so I thank you, Chief, because you were given a certain set of tools, and you're trying your best to serve. I understand the advocacy from the unions. They're doing their job, and they have to put it in a certain light. But I think the public should know that the council, along with the mayor, we're all trying our best with what we have. But the fact is, we're going to have even stronger challenges in the future. But these key roles, I hope, can stay intact. What happens to our constituents when they are in that moment of crisis, that we have that professional that is there in that moment in time. I have, in the next 2 months, I won't be here, but I do want to take this opportunity to say thank you to the firefighters, both the men and the women, and the officers for their hard work throughout the years. But I just want to highlight that this should not be political football, that during this time of elections, that we don't lose sight of why we're here, and that is to protect our citizens and to serve this great city. So for that, Chief, I want to say thank you, and to the officers that are here in the audience and the firefighters, because I think we're all coming from the same place. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you very much, sir.
Mr. Parks.
Thank you very much. Chief, we've heard a lot of people talk about this plan isn't ready. Could you give us an idea of how it was vetted? Did it go through your commission? Has it been before any of our council committees? Just how was it vetted before it got to this point?
Yes, sir, Mr. Councilman. We, at the April 16th Fire Commission meeting, we had the first discussion of it with the Fire Commission. They scheduled a special meeting on the 25th where we had another very full discussion. Each of the labor units came up and made a presentation, and then I made a presentation for the plan as well. We came to Public Safety Committee on the 26th and had a very vigorous discussion there with the Public Safety Committee and quite a bit of public comment and interaction. And then again at the Personnel and Animal Welfare Committee, we came back for a fourth time to have a discussion on this particular matter.
So before you implemented it, it went through your Fire Commission twice, Public Safety once, and the Personnel Committee.
Yes, sir.
So did anyone at any of these committees or commissions say halt the plan?
There was discussion, but there were safety concerns. There was talk of safety concerns, but nothing specific was articulated. And my position has always been that we can operate safely in this manner. And there was some discussion as to whether or not I, as the fire chief, could reconfigure the staffing on resources, to which the city attorney opined that that was within my purview as the general manager.
And exactly how many positions per day are you moving?
22 out of 953 on-duty personnel.
And that's the constant staffing?
Yes, sir.
Okay. The other thing, several people mentioned rumors about lack of equipment, fire or paramedics wagons not being available. Is any of that true? Or
no, sir. We were able to get all 11 ambulances out in service, well equipped. They've been in service for 48 hours now, and the stats, although it's not a large enough set yet with just 48 hours, they're showing large reductions in the light force runs that they're going on. It's showing better availability and response times for the ambulances.
And these are the problems that you were here a couple of months ago talking about response time going up?
Yes, sir.
Is this what you proposed as a solution?
Yes, sir. This was the solution as we looked at fire company availability, ambulance response times.
And is this part of that computerized system that was implemented a while back?
Absolutely. This is going to take into account all of that, the work of the IDA task force, looking at the data, the clear and corrected data, and being able to do some detailed analysis.
Okay. And then someone mentioned, were you unavailable Friday to be here?
Excuse me, what's that?
Were you unavailable to be here Friday when we had this discussion?
Yes, I was out of the building when the call came in that we were here.
I'm saying,
I'm sorry. No. When the meeting came and I was called, I was en route back. Correct. I was here downtown, and staff called, and I was on my way back.
Okay. The other issue, if we're talking about $1.5 or $6 million that takes you over a 2-month period,
yes, sir.
What would you estimate it's going to cost annually if it's sustained next year?
It's going to be about 1.62 for the balance of this fiscal year, and staff says that because this will all be overtime for next fiscal year, we won't graduate our first class of recruits till June, approximately $13 million for next year.
Okay. Colleagues, I would suggest if we're going to move forward on this that we not implement it unless you can pay the bill next year, because the worst thing you can do to a general manager is give him the false hope that for 2 months he could do something and for 12 months he can't. And if the budget's not available for $13 million for 13-14, then I would suggest you not put a Band-Aid on it for 60 days and then have to grapple with it down the road. And that's the problem, I think, in all of our public safety, is sustaining what we implement. And if we keep piecemealing, because every time someone brings an issue, we fix it at that moment, and then we don't fix it for the long term, I think that's where we get ourselves in the problem. But $13 million for next year to deal with a 60-day problem this year. And I would suggest we seriously look at whether you want to make that 13 million commitment on an issue of rushing before us for a 60-day solution.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Labange, and if you want to quickly introduce the kids that
Well, no, Mr. Koretz is going to do that later in just a moment. I just helped him get it seated because I didn't want to get a fire inspector in the building there. We got them organized. But here we are, okay? And I just want to let you know, when I got here, I really believe and strongly believe in the fire department. 106, 107 fire stations, every part of the city. And it used to be 42 task forces. Now we're down to 31 task forces, I believe, what it is. It is absolutely imperative, because we have a job to represent. You have a job to lead a department. Thank you, Commission, for what you do as appointed by the mayor. But we have a job to stand up when there's something that came up. Thank you for bringing this up, Richard, which is real important. We got to find the money, which we have at this moment. Appreciated what Mr. Park said. In the full process, we got to find the money to help it. Truck companies are absolutely important. I think of Rocky Delgadillo, who lives 2 or 3 blocks from Station 29, a candle fire could have been a disaster, but 29s was there. If this plan goes through, Chief, 29s is not a task force, it's a light force. So I have to stand up and say, if we have this solution for the moment, I'll take it for the moment. I'd rather have it for the moment, and we have to work to make it right in the future and find economies to do that. The fire department is extremely efficient, but it's absolutely key to have truck companies there, especially in densely populated areas. It's so key to that. So I wanted to thank those who came up with this idea to move forward. I appreciate all that you do, Chief, but I think I can't say it enough. On the back of the truck, it's important that there's a tiller man or woman. And in the front, it's important there's an apparatus operator and a captain, and then the 2 firefighters actually do the work. Because this is the person on the fire truck, which is the hook and ladder, that actually goes in to use that saw to cut the windows open or whatever it is to get into the fire. This is the one who does that, and I think that is so important. And I do remember that it was at 35s at Fleming Place off Santa Monica Boulevard, Captain McMaster, and he was able to save one, but because under the previous administrations 2 ago, Mr. Hahn fought for it, got the 10th man back. 10th person. The previous mayor, who I know and love, Mr. Reardon, was a champion of a reduced light force. I don't like reduced life force. I want to see a task force, because that's the key to success. And it's not just on emergency medical, it's for the earthquake that comes, it's for the wind that came the other day. Look at poor Ventura. Last night I was driving out Sunset Boulevard, I saw the County 7s on a run, 3 people on an engine. If you live in Los Angeles, you're going to get 5, and that's important. Anyway, thank you, Mr. President, for your help and leadership on this.
Thank you. Okay, now what I'm going to do, Mr. Krikorian, I'm going to save you and then Richard to close, okay? So I'm going to call on Mitch Englander at this time, and then I'll go to Krikorian and Alarcon. Mr. Englander.
Yes, I'll just be quick. I've got a friendly amendment that I would like to make, support going to the Budget Stabilization Fund. I think by some of the comments that were also suggested, and Mr. Parks brings up a valid point as well, what we ought to do is find out what the revision plan actually means, or reversion plan if we want to call it that, to revert back to what happened pre-Cinco de Mayo. I don't know how we want to call this. We'll come up with some creative name to refer to it in the future. But in any event, if we could pass it along today, fund it, change it back immediately, but then go back to the Fire Commission to explain what does it mean. What are those days particularly? You mentioned there may be a couple days that it may not work, or what are the issues with some of the apparatus that may not function, or mechanic issues that may not fit the plan. So that should be spelled out in the Fire Commission and presented. As we revert back to it, what does that all mean? So it's a clear understanding of what the council would be funding, what the city's getting. So that would be my friendly amendment.
Thanks, Councilman Engler. And what it will be essentially is that those 22 positions each day on those light forces, when we get the funding, we will begin hiring overtime for those positions, so they'll be staffed every day. So they'll be listed as vacant position. We'll use the overtime funds to hire for them. And the days, I couldn't tell you the days, but if we can't hire through our normal volunteer hiring because there's vacancies or some other reason, then those would be vacant positions.
That's why I think those details can go back to the Fire Commission for you to work with the commissioners on, if that's okay. If that's accepted as a friendly amendment by Mr. Krikorian.
Before I call on Mr. Krikorian, Mr. Parks.
Thank you very much. I just want to ask one question. We've asked the chief to make a commitment to spend this money a certain way. I'm just going to ask our chair, do we have a commitment to give him the $13 million next year?
No.
Okay. So I just thank you.
Yeah, and in response to what Mr. Parks indicated earlier, the many, many years of underfunding the fire department are not going to be fixed today. That is not what we're here to do. Mr. Parks asked if we, mentioned we shouldn't give a general manager false hope. I'm not giving him false hope at all. I'm not giving him any hope at all. What I'm trying to do is fix an emergency situation that has been brought about by a sudden change in the way personnel are being allocated, and bringing that back to where we were in terms of firefighter staffing on apparatus. That's what we're trying to do. Now, through the budget process that we're engaged in right now, you bet you have my commitment that we're going to continue to try to work to remedy the continuing, pervasive, year after year problem that we've had, by the way, now for many years, not just the last year, but for many years, in underfunding the fire department and putting people at more risk than they need to be put to. So yes, am I going to commit to trying to fix that problem? You bet. Am I going to commit to this particular funding and this particular staffing arrangement? No, that's what we have a fire commission to do. As Mr. Englander said, and I'm very happy to accept his amendment as friendly, so long as we understand that that process cannot delay the re-implementation of those firefighters back onto trucks right now. When this money gets transferred, those firefighters have to go on the truck right now. And those other details can be worked out as we go. And I get what you're saying, Chief, because there may be, in fact, limitations on whether you can do both things at once because of apparatus limitations or personnel limitations. But I think it's clear that the priority of this council is that I hope we're going to fund with this additional funding, getting those firefighters back on the truck so that our engine companies are fully staffed.
Thank you.
That would be my, and if I can just say specifically, Mr. President, it is therefore, based on all of those points, my motion to transfer $1.56 million from the Budget Stabilization Fund to the unappropriated balance and appropriate therefrom to the Fire Department Fund Number 100, account 1093 for constant staffing to the LA Fire Department, as amended by Mr. Englander.
Okay, Mr. Alarcon, to close.
Council members, I think this is an important discussion to have. And I believe that the public is entitled to a full understanding of dramatic changes that might occur in their communities. And frankly, when fire department resources are cut, one of the first things that happens is we get calls from the public trying to understand why are they cutting that person? Why are they because this information filters quickly to the community. The fact is that we have demonstrated today, with your supportive vote, that through discussion and through dialogue and through an opportunity to work things out, we can come up with a better solution. I do want to point out one thing. This is not a referendum on the chief. The fact is, we ask firefighters every day to make a split-second decision about whether to go in or to stay out. And typically, they go in. This chief is doing the same thing. He's going in with his best idea of what to do in a short span of time. I don't question that. But I do want to tell you this. Prior to the PAW committee meeting, the Personnel Committee meeting on this subject, the chief called me. And he asked me, Richard, what do you think about my plan? I said, Chief, I can't agree with you on this. I said, but we shouldn't be having this discussion. The discussion should be about how do we get more resources so we don't have to talk about this. And the chief said, thank you. I really appreciate that. There's no disagreement between the chief and I in terms of whether the department needs more resources. We wholeheartedly agree. That's the fundamental problem here. And I do want to remind Midge, there was at least one council member who voted against the cuts to the fire department because we didn't believe that we were adequate in terms of the service. Well, okay, at least one. So with that, I want to commend the council for having this discussion in earnest. I hope there is hope that the next council will vote to support additional resources in this area. We don't want to put our chief in this position. Most importantly, we don't want to put our constituents in the position of having less resources, and we certainly don't want to put our firefighters in that split-second decision to have to go in without knowing that they have backup. That is what we are dealing with. Mr. Wesson, thank you for your leadership. You know, there are so many things that could be said about how leadership evolves, but I'll tell you, we don't want to split this baby in half, and thank God we have Herb Wesson helping us through these kinds of issues. I only hope that we quickly educate the 7 council members coming in, that we all admit we are underfunding this department, that we have to find the resources to bring it up to a level that made it the greatest fire department in the world. And I believe that with your support of this vote on Mr. Krikorian's motion, that we will send a very strong message in doing just that. Thank you all.
Mr. Corrects?
Yeah, I don't want to nitpick, but I do want to clarify one issue. So we're fully funding both the 22 ambulance positions and the positions on the truck. On the days where you come up with 1 or 2 people short because you can't staff it, are we saying we short the trucks or we short the ambulances?
I'm staffing for the community need, which is the ambulances.
Well, I wouldn't consider that ideal. If we're putting this money in, I would at least like a commitment that we keep the trucks fully staffed. And so if you have these extra 12 ambulances go down to 11 or 10, I think it would make much less of a significant difference than a few of these having the trucks unstaffed.
Sir, 870 times a day I go to emergency medical service calls. Less than 15 times a day I go to fire calls. You tell the community what they need. They need ambulances, sir. We will staff them. We will staff the positions. We will staff it through our voluntary overtime program. We'll make sure that we make those spots available. We will staff them every day. We make and so the City Council knows every day we make decisions based on staffing. Today, over the course of the last week, over the course of the last month, we've reduced staffing on light forces down to 5 based on staffing needs, because some days we cannot hire for vacant positions. We are short firefighters. We haven't hired for the Los Angeles Fire Department since 2009. We're a lot of positions short. Every day we make staffing decisions, and we have to make those decisions based on the needs of the community. If I know that 85% of the time I'm going to respond to an emergency medical service call, and only 3%, less than 3% of the time I'm going to respond to a fire call, which resource do you think the community wants me to put that firefighter on? They want me to put it on the one that responds to their mother, their child, their wife, to respond to that EMS call load. And these these ambulances respond to fire calls as well. They're not just emergency medical service resources. We respond an effective response force to every call for service that we get.
I certainly am not in agreement on this, and I want to clarify with Mr. Krikorian whether this actually meets the intent of your motion.
Mr. Krikorian, you've been asked a question. Repeat your question, Mr. Koretz.
I was asking whether this particular fine point of deployment actually meets the intent of your motion.
Well, I think in light of Mr. Englander's suggestion about referring the details of when there's a person short or an apparatus short, that's really not the council's expertise to resolve. That's why we have a fire commission. And so the point was, this funding is with the expectation that right now we get firefighters fully staffed on those fire apparatus, that we get our engine companies back up and running. Truck up. So, okay, thank you. Our truck company's fully staffed. But as the chief says, on a day-to-day basis, because we are understaffed in the fire department, and we are going to be hopefully funding more staffing for next year, but at the time, I don't know that there's a way that we can address that problem. That is something that we would hope that the Fire Commission would address going forward. It's my intention to fund positions on the fire apparatus. That's what this is for, is to fund positions on the fire apparatus.
Get him. Oh, okay. I really have to get Zion out of here. We're not going to be able to take a 12-vote item, so please, Mr. Englander.
I think I'd like to feel much more comfortable deferring to those specific questions to the President of the Commission, if we can have Ms. Hayes.
Right. I'm sorry.
Janine Hayes, can I ask the President of the Commission to step forward for 1 second, if I could?
Yeah. Use my mic. He wanted to ask you a question.
She's hiding. I could. Since I made the motion to put it back in your shop, as you guys are the commission under the charter that oversees all of these issues from policy to deployment and everything in between, and safety, can you address the questions that were before us in terms of ensuring that our spirit of what we're doing here today, the restoration of these funds from the Budget Stabilization Fund, the $1.56 million.
Okay, Mitch, I'm going to jump in right now. Madam Clerk, let's hold this item. Let's quickly go to, because he's got to go. Let's quickly go to item 24, which was held special by cards. It's an ordinance. We need 12 votes, and it needs to go forthwith. So, with that said, it's my understanding that Mr. Sachs has waived, and that's appreciated. So on item 24, please open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Okay, now we will, forthwith, and now we...
Mr. President, those two items need to go urgent forthwith, and we could suspend the rules because they need to be signed today.
Okay.
Thank you.
So we will do the super duper We'll get them there if I have to carry them myself.
I thought you had made up that super forthwith. There's actually an urgent forthwith, so that's
Okay.
what it is.
All right. With that said, Mr. Englander.
We have to vote to send. Thank you very much.
We did.
Sorry?
Okay, then now let's vote urgent forthwith.
This is for items 24 and 27.
Open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Okay, now can we return to...
Yes, Madam President, if we could just ask for your input on this as well, and what the Commission might do to look into this, and what your response to all the dialogue has been so far.
In listening to all of the dialogue, the issue that I have that I'm struggling with would be that if we were to say to the general manager that on a day-to-day basis or a week-by-week basis, we would be the ones who would make the decision to determine how staffing happens operationally within the fire department, I actually think that I just have to be very honest with you, and I actually think that that's something that I don't know that the Fire Commission would be able to do or should be able to do on a regular basis. This is a sworn firefighter up through the ranks. He is the general manager. He is the fire chief. And I do believe that it would be micromanaging to tie his hands about how he deploys. Now, I do understand the safety issues or the perceived safety issues. I'm not quite sure about that, and I'm not going against UFLAC or the Chief Officers Association, and I'm not standing with management. I think we need to have this report that's coming forth on the 21st. I think it's important that all of these questions get asked. I think that we then send it to your committee, because you are public safety, that we send it to you, and that then we make a decision about how we're going to allow the fire chief to proceed with operational issues. I think that Councilman Parks is correct, and that we are kicking the can down the road because we're looking for $13 million, and we're not sure that we're going to get that. You're going to have a new city council, so to speak, a new mayoral administration. What I really want to say to you is that I know how difficult these decisions are, and I absolutely am pleased to see the caliber of the discussion. What I would like to have happen is to give the Fire Commission an opportunity to receive the report, ask all of these questions. I know that the fire chief, he hasn't said it today, but I know that the fire chief has requested that the International Association of Firefighters look at his data, look at his process, look at his protocol. All it takes is for UFLAC to say to IAFF, the International Association of Firefighters, to accept management's data so that they can crunch the numbers, so that they can look at it. We need time for that to happen too. But I believe that if the vote that you're taking here is to add more resources through June 30, I would be reluctant to say to you that I would want to tie a general manager's hands by having him have to come to the Fire Commission every time he wants to make an operational change. I just don't think that that is in the best interest of the city. We're volunteers, we're part-time, so I worry about that, Councilman.
So what I'm asking again is that, and that amendment was not specifically for an approval or a codification by the Commission, but, if you will, an explanation in detail of what the restoration would mean.
Yes.
And that's what we're asking. That's the intent of that. So that's done transparently with a clear understanding of, and if need be, so it would follow the normal course of action and policy, is that it would go to the Fire Commission first, and if need be, could come then to Public Safety, and if need be, could come to the full City Council.
Correct.
But it always starts with the Commission, and so I'm respecting that process.
With that, I would agree with you. I would agree with your friendly amendment. I think that that would get us where we need to be.
I think it's also a good starting off or launching off point into the discussion of where we need to be for next year, of where that full restoration plan, which we haven't seen yet, That conversation begins then again in the Fire Commission. The data gets shared with IAFF. Considering those are perhaps some other issues that need to be discussed on another day. But that dialogue needs to springboard into this restoration of $1.5 million to finish this calendar year, then does what specifically, and then what does it take to get back on track?
Correct.
Moving forward. And I'd like to see that conversation evolve from the commission level and then shared with this body as well. And I think that might be a good opportunity to do that. So again, I'm all for the restoration of these funds, sort of put back where we were in terms of changing what was recently deployed. Again, it's still under the chief's authority to do that under the charter, and I respect that process. And just that added element of going to the Fire Commission so there's a clear dialogue and understanding, and the other commissioners as well can ask and dialogue on those questions so we have those answers.
Yes.
Great. Okay.
And
thank you.
I'd really like to thank you for that friendly amendment. We would also be in agreement with that.
Great.
Okay. All right. Okay. So what we want to do, we want to vote on, we're going to substitute Mr. Krikorian's motion for Mr. Alicorn's. Correct, Madam Clerk?
Yes, Mr. President.
Then let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Okay.
Mr. President, that first vote would be on whether to substitute. Now, Council, before them is the actual motion.
Okay, we're voting on the actual motion. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Okay, Mr. Zine, you're...
Ask that go super urgent forthwith.
Mr. Zine, you're excused. Okay. Mr. Labange. Mr. Labange. And Mr. Krikorian.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to rise and with regard to number 40 and number 41, the two closed session items, both of those items can be disposed of in open session unless members have questions about them. Number 40 is a recommendation to allow outside counsel to initiate litigation regarding the State Department of Finance, and number 41 is a recommendation to approve a global settlement in the Grobeson versus City of Los Angeles matter. Unless members have questions about those matters, we can vote on them in open session.
All right, so members, on those two issues, right now, there's no one...
Actually, I think 40 should be heard in closed session.
All right, we'll
our office has been recused from it.
We'll take your advice. But
I'll discuss this with you in a second.
Let's discuss it. Let's the one we can take right now, Madam Clerk. Which one is that?
41.
41.
Item 41, and for the record, Mr. President, the recommendation is to authorize the City Attorney to expend a total of $600,000 in settlement for the case entitled Mitchell Grobeson versus the City of Los Angeles.
Okay. No speakers on the queue. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
All right, forthwith on that item. Next motion. Mr. Carter, get up here, please.
What's that? On Groveson.
Next item. All right, I'd like to call on Mr. Paul Koretz, Madam Clerk. Mr. Koretz.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, we have in the back first to fifth grade students from Betty Placentia Elementary School in Echo Park, along with their principal, Julie Gonzalez. They've been outside with Environment California and Sierra Club, singing songs and calling on all of us in City Hall to move more quickly to solar power so that they inherit a better world. Let's give them a big hand.
Thank you very much.
And also, I'd like to bring up one student, Isaiah Frias, who would like to briefly speak on behalf of all of them.
Hold on, before Isaiah speaks, Sergeant, move the chairs. I want a clean shot for him, that he can get everyone's attention there. And Mr. Koretz, because it's okay with the fire marshal, if some of the students want to come up a little bit stand behind the young man.
Students, if you all want to come up behind. You want to go over there? Sure, that would be great.
Mr. Reyes.
Thank you, Council President. A los padres les quiero decir gracias por estar aquí con nosotros. Pedir presencia está en mi distrito. Les quiero dar los saludos, los bienvenidas. Hola, que pueden regresar. Este edificio municipal es para ustedes. Los impuestos de ustedes pagan por este lugar. Entonces es importante que los padres sepan que tengan todo el deseo de mejorar la educación, y les doy gracias porque ahora los niños, los jovencitos van a tener recuerdos bonitos estando aquí en este edificio. Muchas gracias y bienvenidos de parte del primer distrito. Gracias.
Thank you very much. And Sergeant, give him a chair. Make sure it's safe. Mr. Reyes.
What I was saying, Tom, is I was thanking the parents in Spanish because I know the challenge we have in the district. They are in the first district. Thank you, Paul, for bringing them forward. And to let them know that their tax dollars, what pays for this building, what allows us to be present here. And I want to thank them for being here and providing the memories for the children, our future leaders, because this is part of their life. And I thank them for their hard work. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Mr. Krikorian, reintroduce it. Here we go.
Hello, my name is Isaiah Frias, and I'm a first grade student at Betty Placencia Elementary. I am here to thank our Mayor, Antonio Villaraigosa, for helping improve our environment by supporting renewable energy. Did you know that when he first became mayor, Los Angeles only received 4% of its power through solar, wind, and geothermal energies? Now as he ends his term as mayor, that number is up to 20%. Wow! That shows that he truly cares about the environment and the people of Los Angeles. In my class, my teacher, Mr. Montañez, is teaching us how to reduce our carbon footprint by using solar energy. I am so excited about this because it will make our air cleaner by reducing the amount of coal that is burned. This lessens the carbon dioxide in the air. I know that reducing the use of coal by 2025 is one of the mayor's goals. I ask that Mayor Villaraigosa continue support of renewable energy so that my friends and I can have even cleaner air. I thank him for all that he has done for this great city and its people. Thank you very much.
A big hand, Isaiah. A big hand for Isaiah. Mr. Koretz.
Thank you, Isaiah. So all of you are meeting the mayor of Los Angeles in 2050.
Very good.
There he is.
2034.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Mr. Koretz, thank you. Mr. Reyes, thank you. And I want to let you know, for the mothers and everybody, Betty Placencia was a great woman who lived in the area right there, and she tragically lost her life, Mr. Reyes, as you know, at 40 years old. Had 4 beautiful children. One of her daughters is here. She was a fighter for the community of Old Cortez Street School. It used to be in the old 4th District, so it's good to see Betty Placencia Elementary School. And let's hear it for Isaiah again. Good job. And as you go out, have a good day, children. Thank you very much. Hey, Madam Principal. Madam Principal. That's a 1-minute zone. We can do it.
Yeah.
Hey, children, real quick. Let's hear the song real quick. Real quick. Here we go. We're going to do one quick song. Ready? Joe, out of the way. Move those chairs, Joe. Get out of the way, Joe.
They're coming with their music.
Solar energy shout. Solar energy. Everybody's doing the solar energy shout. Solar energy. Can do it all day, doesn't have to do it all out. Solar energy.
Yay! Good job. Betty Placencia School. The sunlight of tomorrow. Thank you, children. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Thank you. Thank you. Very good. All right. Let's hear it now. We have a special item that we want to get up. What's next, Madam Clerk?
Mr. President, for the record, for item 14, instead of being continued to May 14th, it will be continued to May 15th.
So noted, May 15th. Next item.
Item 33, a substitute motion has been circulated. Council may vote on that item.
Item 33. Any speakers on the queue?
I believe there's cards, Mr. President.
Mr. Sachs, please. Mr. Sachs, thank you. Mr. Arnold Sachs from the fine city of Lenox. Come on up.
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon. Arnold Sachs. My only concerns regarding this, item 33, it's a zoning change. And there was a zoning change. As a matter of fact, there was an editorial regarding the zoning change that occurred in Hollywood. And it mentions that the height change wasn't discussed but vetted, as Councilman Parks mentioned about the changes in the fire allocation for the personnel, that it was vetted in committees. But that really doesn't cover anything. So my only concern is because in this editorial it mentions that it was well understood that it would lead to taller buildings in the neighborhoods. And the buildings are going to be like 40 stories high in Hollywood. So is there a direct number that the public should be aware of for the zoning changes that will occur? Because that kind of information kind of puts the neighborhood councils and the public behind the 8 ball. And so I'm very concerned because we see it happen all the time, that something is said but not followed through on by the council chambers or the councilmen in the chambers. And it's unfortunate, but we'll discuss part of the fire allocation, which is exactly the same thing, especially with the budget discussions that are going on for fiscal year 13-14. And the amount of money that would be available to the neighborhood councils to help them in discussions regarding zoning changes and the information the public may need. Isn't that right, Mr. City Attorney? I'm on the subject still, knucklehead.
Thank you, Mr. Sachs, as always, for your fine cooperation this morning. Let's, no speakers on the queue. Open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
So ordered. Mr. City Attorney, on that other item we spoke of earlier, please, we're going to continue it. Yep. Item 40, just read it into the record, please.
There's been a request to continue item 40 to next Wednesday, the 15th.
Very good. So ordered. Next item.
Item 15, called special by Councilmember Rosendahl.
Mr. Rosendahl of the fine 11th District and his staff to the microphone.
Thank you, Mr. President. 15, and it was on consent, but I wanted the public to understand that what this does do is incent research and development in the film industry. Businesses in the state account for more than 1/5 of the total research and development investment. Countries like China and India are significantly increasing their efforts. SB 500, put together by Senator Ted Lieu, would expand the state's tax credit from 15% to 20% and conform the state's research credit with federal law. Colleagues, I urge passage of this and encourage the creation of more high-tech, high-paid jobs in Los Angeles. The increase in research and development tax credit will help California maintain and expand its leading edge in innovation, stimulate the economy, and potential to foster the creation of more high-tech sectors throughout the city, similar to Silicon Beach. This bill also broadens the group of business eligible to use the credit in order to strengthen California's manufacturing center. So I ask for unanimous support of State Senator Ted Lieu's bill to keep the entertainment industry in California.
Thank you, Mr. Rosendahl. Let's open the roll. Close the roll, tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
Okay, that's approved. Now we're going to do item 29. It was called special by Mr. Walsh, John Walsh. Oh, I see him. Okay, Mr. Walsh, item 29.
John Walsh, blogging at HollywoodHighlands.org. This is item 29. This concerns gang reduction. Now, I want to tell you that you could start with gang reduction. Yesterday, I found in Hollywood, and I'm not afraid to mention gang members, names of the gang. England, a lot of you people are afraid. There's 18th Street gang graffiti all over Vine Street. What does that mean? Garcetti is allowing it. As long as the LA Times and the journalistic garbage that works with them cooperate with the gangs by keeping the fact that the gangs are taking over Hollywood because the LA Times wants Garcetti. Stay tuned, and I'm telling you right now, HollywoodHighlands.org, anybody but Garcetti, put these shows back online. Put the City Council back online. HollywoodHighlands.org.
Mr. Reyes.
Thank you, Council President. I think it's important to put on the record that every time we have that kind of graffiti, we have teams that go out and paint it out the moment it's reported. And once
Come on, you're disrupting the council meeting.
Once it's painted out, it's actually, if they are waiting for another canvas and they spray again. So it's constant. So to single out any one council member, I think, is inappropriate.
Please, let's keep it down in the gallery. Okay, let's prepare to vote on this item. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
Okay, do we have cards on 17?
Public hearing has been satisfied.
Okay, Mr. Rosendahl, it's my understanding that you called 17 special?
Yes, I did. And again, it's to highlight something that was on consent that people need to know about. And it has to do with DOMA, which is the Defense of Marriage Act. I don't know if you know this, but unfortunately, due to the injustices of the Federal Defense of Marriage Act, recognizing of same-sex partnerships is prohibited. The government treats health insurance benefits provided through a same-sex sponsor or domestic partner employer as income and tax them. The federal government does not tax these benefits on income for hetero couples, and therefore same-sex couples should not have these benefits taxed either. California employers are now taking a wind of the injustice and providing the LGBT employees in same-sex relationships a reimbursement for this federal tax. Unfortunately, the state tax this reimbursement and additional income as well. AB 362 would exempt from taxation the reimbursements provided by employers to their LGBT employees. Colleagues, I urge a yes vote to send a message to Sacramento that we must put an end to unfair taxation and unequal treatment. And I ask for an aye vote, which we will talk about also in the gay pride thing.
I liked it better when you asked for a yeah vote.
Yeah.
A yeah vote. I don't know what.
That's
what,
German almost.
Is that what it is, German? Okay, Mr. Koretz. You going to ask for a yeah vote too?
Yeah, I asked for a yeah vote. And I want to thank Councilmember Rosendahl for asking the City of Los Angeles to support AB 362. Amazingly, the Defense of Marriage Act taxes health insurance benefits for same-sex couples, even if they're married. So this is as discriminatory a circumstance as could be. So AB 362 provides an exemption from state taxes for additional income to try and make up for this. And I'm happy to join with Equality California, AFSCME, California Nurses Association, the Gay and Lesbian Center, and so many others in asking for an aye vote in support of this measure.
Thank you, Mr. Koretz. Okay, members, let's, on this item, open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
Okay. Next is item 28, Mr. Walsh. Mr. John Walsh. And we're going to call 32 next, John, so you want to stay close to the podium. So 28 called by Mr. Walsh.
John Walsh, blogging at HollywoodHighlands.org. A bunch of fresh blogs up there
this morning. This is 28. This concerns the El Centro. I don't understand when you're shifting $45,000, a block grant, from the neighborhood city hall to something called El Centro de Ayuda, a family source center. This money is not fungible. You know, we just spent hours talking about money for ambulances. Well, $45,000 can buy you a lot of ambulance service. I don't know why the Boyle Heights Neighborhood City Hall doesn't need the money anymore, and why El Centro de Ayuda, Family Source Center, does. And nothing in this tells me why. So if you want to know what's really happening in the city, go to HollywoodHighlands.org.
Thank you. Stay close, Mr. Walsh. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
Okay, now we're item 32 held by Mr. Walsh, John Walsh, item 32. You have 1 minute, they tell me. Start
Watch
his clock.
it now, because
Start
they're
his
not
clock.
putting any of the shows online anymore. And I call this a show because they don't want you to see my public comment.
Come on and stay to the
well,
item.
say I'm a liar. Anyway,
stay
this
on
is
the item.
concerns, again, fire stations. I think we made it clear what we want. And incidentally, I want to tell you how bad the fire department is in New York. Everybody in New York knows that when the fire department comes
He is not talking about this item.
Stay on the subject. Stay on the subject.
Department,
No,
and I am
stay on the
praising the
subject.
surplus fire 83. Now, I'm sorry, this is the First Amendment, okay, of the City Council. And if you want to hear it now, because they're censoring me online.
Okay, so let's vote on that item. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
Okay, next we'll take up item 34. Does Mr. Walsh have any more time? Okay, was held special by Mr. Walsh. Item 34, members, let's prepare to vote. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
Okay, now we'll move to item 35, called special by Dr. Tom Williams and John Walsh. So Dr. Williams, please come forward. He's declining, or not declining, he's waiving his time at this point. Thank you, sir. Let's prepare to vote on that item. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
$39. Called special, Mr. Sachs. Item 39 called by Mr. Sachs.
Well, yes, thank you. Good afternoon again. It's good afternoon. Arnold Sachs. This is, again, Quimby fees and the allocation and the use of Quimby fees. And as an example, we have the park here at the police headquarters that is in total disrepair. We have the Grand Avenue Park that was paid for with Quimby fees from the Grand Avenue project.
Mr. President, this is a matter of a parcel map on a particular parcel, not a general discussion about
Work with
Quimby
me
fees.
here, Arnold, because I want you to speak. Try to stay on the subject.
Stan, if you look at the item on your agenda, it mentions that Quimby fees are generated by the parcel that's going to be the project that's going to be built on the parcel. So I am trying to discuss or bring to the attention of the public that the Quimby fees and how they're spent, there is no rhyme or reason. Now we know that the council is diligent in budgeting funds, but with no rhyme or reason and a lack of adequate parks in the city, would these Quimby fees be eligible for one of the new pocket parks that you're discussing? They've been brought up, Mr.
He is not talking about this parcel map.
So you have to speak on the partial map itself, Mr. Sachs.
Okay, the partial map that is on your agenda will generate $30-some-odd thousand in Quimby fees. In that particular parcel, would a pocket park become eligible for the use of the Quimby fees, or will the Quimby fees be stashed away in an account that would never be used, as is so often happened with other parcels and the construction of high-rises that generate Quimby fees that never seem to be spent on the city that is park poor?
Thank you. Okay, let's vote on this. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
Okay, we'll do item 42. Elsa Moy, please come forward.
A substitute motion has been circulated for this item.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Elsa Moy. I have two comments on item number 2. First of all, the first
42,
one is
right?
to have affordable housing, to offer the list to own to the firefighters, police officers, so that they can live within the city. That will save them for the energy and not to fight for the heavy traffic. And the second one is for everybody, for the residents of LA too. In exchange for the bank to give out up to $125,000 to compensate the deficient practice in mortgage loan serving and foreclosure areas. Bank offer previous homeowners list to own back the house in 2 years. Banks agrees to keep the nowadays low interest rates for the previous house owners, so at that time they can purchase back the house. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Reyes.
Thank you, Council President. Colleagues, this resolution allows us to begin to address all the cutbacks we've been feeling when it comes to housing. As you know, and this is one example, because of the Sacramento politicians that made the move and taking away our CRA, we ended up losing $50 million annually for our housing. So with this recordation fee, we can begin to bring up resources that allow us to address the need for housing, in particular in our city. When you look at, of the 3.7 million, 2.2 million are living in rental units. Our capacity to build and address the needs of our workforce, continue making this city desirable for employers, to have a labor force that can be housed, all has this ripple effect in multiplying our capacity to serve our city. So I encourage an aye vote for SB 391, and again begin to even the playing field, if you will, for the workers and the companies who would like to have a labor force that can be housed in the city. So I ask for an aye vote.
Okay, let's prepare to vote. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
Okay, now we'll go to item 1. What is it, 1F?
Yes.
Okay, we do have some cards. I know John, forthwith on Mr. Reyes' item. John Walsh is out of time, correct? Okay, and I have a Gregory Elsie or
Isley.
Isley. Okay, I needed some help. So if I could get Mr. Isley, and Arnold, you have a minute. So Mr. Isley, go ahead, sir.
Okay, well, real quick, I'm a business owner in East LA, and I have a piece of property that I rent out, part of it, to other people in order to pay my bills and all that. And I received a paper from the building inspector people, and it says that I owe building inspection fees for 2005 through 2008, I think it was, and I never even got a bill, but I did get a big piece of paper that one of my customers brought in to me to hand it to me to say, hey, is this for you? Now, I don't feel as though I should pay the inspection fees for some property that the people moved out of there because they couldn't pay their rent, and then moved up the street and opened up their business then about 2 blocks away. And I'm still being taxed the $1,160 for a bill that occurred about 5 years ago. And
I feel as though the business or the property owner person shouldn't be liable for all of the taxes and all that occur that the people renting that place didn't pay. Okay?
Okay. Thank you. Okay, Arnold, 1 minute.
Well, yes, thank you. Good afternoon, Arnold Sachs. And you know, this again, and you know what I'm going to talk about, and it was discussed yesterday. As a matter of fact, it was discussed in the Budget and Finance Committee meeting by some of the coalition. The allocation of personnel, you have oh man, I'm having a brain cramp, so it's going to cost me a second. You have an ordinance for blighted homes, and you're using personnel, city personnel, to go out and inspect REAP homes or whatever it is. You could be collecting $1,000 a day from blighted homes. And what was that discussion about the fire department and allocating funds? 16 homes a day, $16,000 a day, times 7, $132,000.
Thank you, Mr. Sachs. Thank you, sir. Okay, do you want to quickly respond?
Yeah. Yes, my name is Charles Kalibala. I'm here to represent the Department of Building and Safety on item 1F. The department is proposing a lien for $1,160.60 for property address 4797 East Valley Boulevard, which is owned by Mr. Gregory Ayo, the one we just talked a moment ago. Now, these are for inspections that were performed on the property. The property is a business that has units which are auto-related, and according to the Los Angeles Municipal Code, Section 98.0402, all auto-related businesses are supposed to be inspected yearly, and this unit was inspected from 2005 to 2008. Inspection invoices were sent to the property address, but both the property owner and the tenant failed to pay the inspection fees, and due to that accumulation of inspection fees, the department is proposing that this lien be confirmed on this property, and all protests from the property owner should be dismissed as irrelevant, since according to the same code, 98.0402 says that all auto-related businesses in the city are supposed to be inspected annually and billed by the department. Additionally, both the tenants and the property owners are individually and severally liable for the assessments.
Okay. All right. It's my understanding that the district recommends that we move forward with this. So at this time, let's open the roll. Close the roll. Now tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
Okay, that brings us to item 25. 25 was held by cards. Donna Pearman, Dr. Williams, and John Walsh is out of time. Okay. So, Donna, you pass? Okay, so that leaves Dr. Williams. I do not see Dr. Williams. Mr. Krikorian.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to ask that number 32 and number 35 go forthwith, please.
Okay, that's so ordered. Okay, let's vote on item 25. Let's open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
Okay, what's next, Madam Clerk?
That takes council to general public comment.
Okay, let's get through general public comment. Let me call up Donna Pearman, Bill Huey, and Dr. Williams. Please go, Donna, come on.
Okay.
let's say, we need our cutting public safety with fire and bullets, banning for 10 rounders, and underfunding the fire department. Anyway, the First Amendment rights, like video conferencing, are being taken little by little. You have the right to speak, even if you wish. If you don't that's okay. Like the Second Amendment rights, you don't have to have a gun to believe in Second Amendment rights. Never again are the words against another Holocaust. Why did our forefathers of the country put Second Amendment? It's God's law, so it couldn't happen. Never again happen here. Then our Armenian genocide. There was an Armenian genocide, Mr. Corey, remember that. And we need to not only have this limit on ammunition, which was on Friday's agenda, but reverse all gun bans. You request law, the newest law, the limit of 10, 10 bullets doesn't exempt the police, which of course we're for the police, but not against only police having these guns. But we need to arm ourselves properly as well. Anyway, it exempts the police, the politicians, the entertainment industry, please. The rich and famous, and of course, gang members, drug cartels, terrorists don't care about this law. They will have large capacity guns. Terrorist guns, and terrorists and terrorists and gang members love any and all gun bans. It excites them to do violence. Even talking about it incites them becomes violence. Because Friday's agenda is to start for a total ban for responsible gun owners. Will be powered, the gang members and terrorists, the criminally insane will have these guns. Mexican citizens are not able to arm themselves, but we are.
Thank you, Dr. Williams, Mr. Bill Huey, John Walsh, followed by Arnold Sachs. Yes, sir.
Good morning, members of the City Council. My name is Bill Huey. I'm the president of Fair Housing Coalition. We're a civil rights organization that believes in equality under the law for landlords and renters. I have in my hand, from the Freedom of Information Act, the last 6 audits of the LA Housing Department. In case anyone on the council has not read it, this is criminal activity. Let me tell you what's going on here. We're talking about the fire department needing money, tens of millions of dollars. Where are they? It's in the audit. Let me give you some examples. This is outrageous. I would like one member of the City Council to provide the leadership to work with our coalition to clean up the housing department. The housing department is driving mom and pop landlords out of business, using guerrilla tactics, breaking the law. Homelessness is coming up. And then let me just tell you 4 things that we uncovered. I have a meeting with 2 law firms today that are sharpening their teeth to think they can bring the city to their knees based on what the LHD is doing. Item number 1, there are 10 funds in the housing department that have $10.4 million of money that was not used for anything for over 2 years. How about using some of that money to help homeless veterans, okay? The LHDD, LA Housing Department, blatantly disregarded info that identified a partner, one of these contractors that's working with the city, as being under federal investigation for misuse of private funds. Plus, how about using that money to help poor families living in their cars? Plus, the LHD chose not to share that information with the LA City Attorney. This is a mafia operation. The members of the council are being lied to by the LHD. Also, the LHD appears to act with developers. This is from the city controller, Wendy Gruhl's own findings. The city LHD appears to be acting with developers to benefit controllers, not the interests of the city of LA and the taxpayers. I could go on. We need to get this under control.
Thank you. Mr. Walsh, followed by Arnold Sachs, followed by Michael Carrion.
Bill Huey does an excellent job for landlords, and I'm a tenant. John Walsh, HollywoodHighlands.org. Where is Garcetti? I can tell you right now, he's at Casa Peru. He is campaigning and getting paid here. Even worse, where is Jan Perry? She's at KABC doing her new radio show. Now, I know what, she has to be a member of AFTRA. Those are the rules. She's making at least $500. That's after minimum for an hour. I mean, the nerve of you people. You're now double dipping simultaneously. Let me tell you, L.A. Garcetti, the fascist that he is now that he's in bed, in every sense of the word with Kevin James, now that he's in bed, he calls Wendy Gruhl LA's DWP mayor. That's a compliment. Go up to PG&E up in San Francisco. They just got fined $2.5 billion for blowing up a city. And all these right-wing old white guys, it costs too much, it's too much. If you're a right-wing fascist, old guy, racist, vote for Garcetti. He's asking for your vote. If you're Mr. Rosendahl, he's on our side. I'm going to not attack you for another month because you're voting for Gruhl. He's doing a wonderful job. If you are liberal, if you are progressive, if you are a woman, if you are Hispanic, if you are black, there's only one candidate for you, Gruhl. If you are a fascist, if you are a racist, there is one candidate for you. Vote for him, and we will win 80% to 20%. And I can't believe I live in a city where 79 riot police attacked a bunch of black kids at USC. You're trying to racially cleanse that neighborhood. You didn't have 79 riot gear people there during the Rodney King riots, but you have it for 12 black.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh. Okay, Arnold, followed by Michael Carrion, followed by Brian Barajas.
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon, Arnold Sachs. You know, last week I made a comment about you having to make a decision, Councilman Wesson, and you actually made a good decision today by not having me speak on item 43 because I put my card in late. So let's recap what happened today. Councilman Parks mentioned how the plan was vetted. They had 4 meetings. Were the councilmen at any of the meetings to discuss the fire deployment plan? Councilman Reyes mentioned July 1st is another budget hearing, but you're discussing next year's budget hearing right now. This is a budget hearing for fiscal year 13-14. So, Councilman Englander, you're wrong about the funding closing the calendar year, because the calendar year is different than the fiscal year. And Councilman Alarcon mentioned about educating the 7 new council members. We'll try. But AB 1290 funds, pipeline revenue funds, street furniture revenue funds, landfill amenity revenue funds, billboard sign district revenue funds, blighted foreclosure revenue funds. That's revenue that goes to the city council, not to the city's general fund. Then yesterday in the Budget and Finance Committee meeting, Molly Rose made a presentation about Budgeting 101. The general fund, the general reserve fund, the emergency fund, the revenue uncertainty fund, the special fund, the budget stabilization fund. That's Budgeting 101. You can't come up with $1.6 million. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 forms of revenue, 6 different funds that you fund with general funds, taxes and that sort, kicking the can down the road. And none of this includes the $150 million that you made eligible for the coalition pay raises at a 5% each year for the last 5 years.
Thank you. Your time is up. Okay, Michael, carry on. I don't see him. Brian Barajas, please come forward. Mr. Labange, are you on the queue for a reason? A mistake? Take him off. Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, there's 2 headlines on the LaRouche PAC website. The first one is Glass-Steagall or Die, the British Empire's new concentration camps. Of course, this is reflective of the unemployment rate, which skyrocketed since 2008 till now, particularly in the United States, where the New York Times have actually reported that the ages between 25 and 30 years of age have skyrocketed. The ages between 16 and 24 have also skyrocketed. Now, the United States has actually become the leading. You think Europe is bad, and it is bad, but the United States is about to suffer the same thing. Casualties, yes. Suicides, yes. Terrorism, yes. Now, the other article here is titled, Toward a Bill of Impeachment of President Barack Hussein Obama. This is in 8 counts. Now, when you have a president of the United States, you actually have a president who actually knows the principles of the Constitution. And it doesn't mean that the president himself, who's actually a principled individual, but in this case, since Bush Jr., this president has actually adopted the principles of oligarchism. Now, in order to, I go back to the principle of the Glass-Steagall law because H.R. 129, because if you're going to prevent the disasters, you're going to have to remember what the principles of the United States is. And the principle is very simple. We do not allow the society to collapse. We go to fusion and we go and develop the universe. That's as simple as that.
Okay, thank you. All right, Madam Clerk, what business is before this council?
Council has motions for posting and referral.
They're posted and referred.
That clears the desk.
Okay, announcements. Adjourning motions. Mr. Labange? Everybody rise. Everybody in council, please rise. You have an adjourning motion or announcement?
Got 11 and 12. 2 items forthwith I forgot earlier, 11 and 12.
No problem. Without objection. Okay, Mr. Labange.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. A great friend of Los Angeles, passed at 78 years old, Mario Machado. Mario Machado, you know, from KCBS or KNXT, first Asian American to be an anchor on the news in Southern California in the 1960s. Born in Shanghai and came to Los Angeles. Also was quite a bit of an actor, played many walk-in roles of movies and television programs. He was much loved by many people and also was one of the first who really did a lot of public affairs, where he came off that anchor's desk and did the shows that were necessary for all of us. He'll be missed by all. He won over 8 Emmys, and he also worked nationally for CBS years ago when soccer was just emerging in the North American Soccer League. He was a great guy. He was always kind to me. I asked we adjourn in memory of Mario Machado, and he's survived by 4 wonderful children.
Okay. Mr. Buscaino.
Thank you, Mr. President. And Mario Machado, Tom, thanks for doing that. He was a huge supporter of the LAPD. Every year he attended the police celebrity golf tournament. That's where I had an opportunity to meet him. He was so dedicated to our police department. Colleagues, I'd like to adjourn in memory of Helen Lucille DiMaggio, who passed away April 25th, 2013. Helen was recently named one of San Pedro's living treasures at a ceremony in March commemorating 125th anniversary of the seaside town. She was a respected lifetime member of the harbor community, born June 1st, 1919. She was the eldest child of immigrant parents Andrew and Mary Fistonich, founders of the Star Fisheries in 1921 in San Pedro. Known for her warmth, strong spiritual nature, elegant attire, and witty humor, Mrs. DiMaggio was a staunch supporter of charitable organizations. Preceded in death by her husband and her sons Anthony DiMaggio and Michael DiMaggio, she is survived by her sister Anita, nephews Nick Martisich and Andrew Fistonich, niece Mary Guerrero, cousin Martina Bertovic, and numerous nieces, nephews, cousins, and multitude of friends. A funeral mass will be held May 8th at 10 a.m. at Holy Trinity Church in San Pedro. Visitation is today, May 7th, from 4 to 7 at McNerney's. Interment will be at Green Hills Memorial Park. In lieu of flowers, donations can be sent to the San Pedro Peninsula Cancer Guild, care of Phyllis Trujillo, at 7 Wagon Lane, Rolling Hills, California, 90274. Thank you.
Mitchell, did I see your hand up? No? Okay, then we go to Mr. Koretz.
Thank you, Mr. President. We lost a treasured community leader about a month ago when Mary Anthony Tony Long Gray passed away during a bone marrow transplant. Tony was the vice president of the Westwood Neighborhood Council, where she was truly committed to the safety and well-being of the West Side. Her energy and passion for improving her community through technological innovation and her leadership on quality of life issues will be much missed. She was a teacher who went on to a career in the medical industry, and she assisted creators and inventors of new medical technology in the marketing and licensing of medical devices and medications. Her legacy, both in her career and her community involvement, was one of education, helping, and inspiring others. She's survived by a son, Andrew Gray, 3 brothers, Dr. Curtis Walton Long, Van Allen Long, and Lowell Joe Long, a sister, Carol Long Sturvant, as well as 2 nieces, 6 nephews, 3 great-nieces, and a grandnephew. She is much missed by her family and the community.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Koretz. No other adjourning motions. I will say this, members, tomorrow, courtesy of Mr. Buscaino, it may be lengthy, so be prepared to bring an extra sandwich or something. With that said, this meeting is adjourned.